Okay. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sarawak Skills Corporate Cybersecurity Awareness Session. I'm Stanley, your moderator for this morning's session. I would like to start by sharing the following housekeeping rules. If you have not done so, please click on the link in the chat room to access the attendance form. We will encourage everyone to register as we have almost 300 participants this morning. During the course of this industry talk, we will mute all microphones except for the speakers and moderators' microphones. Please post all your questions in the chat room. We will endeavor to answer all your questions during the question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning we have a diverse online audience comprising representatives from the government, various sectors of the industry, our members as well. For your tremendous support. And now I would like to invite Encik Halman Sabri, Sarawak Skills Executive Director, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Encik Halman, please.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you.
Welcome.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all our friends from the industry, government agencies, and all my officers attending this talk. Thank you for your participation in our industry talk this month. As one of the leading providers in training and education in the state, Sarawak Skills Industry Talk is meant for us to share the pertinent knowledge to all of our friends so that we are updated with relevant tools towards productivity and efficient management of the organization. Today's topic is indeed another interesting topic where our speakers will enlighten us on corporate cybersecurity. As we all know, one of the pillars in Industry 4.0 is cybersecurity. And the speakers will bring us to know about the importance of cybersecurity as information is becoming the most important fuel in this disruption age. If unchecked due to our ignorance, security to our information from advanced technology that we have now could cause our personal and professional life. And we, all of us, will benefit from this talk. I would like to thank Serba Dynamic, our member in Sarawak Skills, and also our strategic partner in aerospace economy for bringing the two speakers in this talk. And for Ithia and Karen from Serba Dynamic, thank for this arrangement. And I would like to thank you to my team members for being committed to manage and run this virtual talk. And to all friends from the industries and government agencies, and not to forget my staff, my officers, happy learning, selamat berpuasa, and selamat Hari Raya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Encik Halman, for your welcoming remarks. Indeed, your remarks have set the tone for this morning's session. Yes, we already have picked up quite a number of points. The importance of cybersecurity in this day and age. Yes, we are looking forward to an exciting and fruitful session. Ladies and gentlemen, around the globe, cybersecurity incidents are no longer considered merely IT-related problems. With the ever-increasing frequency of cyber attacks and threats in this day and age, the huge cost of cyber attacks have made cybersecurity an enterprise-wide issue, no longer an IT issue only, enterprise-wide issue. Here in Malaysia, it has been reported that cybersecurity incidents have increased by more than 100% since the COVID-19 outbreak. Indeed, with the online environment becoming an essential part of the fabric of society, including the world of work, there is an urgent need for all organizations to embrace a strategic approach to cybersecurity. On that note, I take great pleasure in introducing our first speaker for this morning, Associate Professor, Colonel Dato' T.S. Dr. Hussein Jasri. He is known in the cybersecurity and industry circles as Dato' Jazz. For your reference, Dato' Jazz is the Senior Vice President of Cybersecurity at Serba Dynamic Holdings Berhad. He is also the Chief Editor of the E-Security and Privacy channel, known as ESPC, which is the digital platform for cybersecurity and privacy by Serba Dynamic. Dato' Jazz has more than 30 years experience in cybersecurity as well as information security within Malaysia and internationally. Prior to joining Serba Dynamic, he was an associate professor of cybersecurity at Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation and at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. He was also the founder, first director, and CEO of Cybersecurity Malaysia and a former director of the National ICT Security and Emergency Response Center under MIMOS Berhad. During the course of his career in cybersecurity and information security, he spearheaded numerous strategic cybersecurity projects. He is also the recipient of numerous awards. For example, the prestigious Harold Tipton Lifetime Achievement Award from ISC Squared. This is the highest award for cybersecurity professionals in the world. And he has also received the Best Teaching Professor Award from NUST, that was in 2017. As highlighted by Encik Halman just now, Serba Dynamic is a member of Sarawak Skills. In this respect, over the years, they have played an important role in advancing the noble cause of human capital development, not only in Sarawak, but other parts of Malaysia and around the world. You know, they are involved in a whole host of activities. In summary, they are an international energy services group providing a multitude of engineering services and solutions, ranging from operation and maintenance, engineering procurement, construction and commissioning, and other supporting products and services. So on that note, I'd like to hand or rather yield the floor over to Dato' Jazz. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And thank you very much, Mr. Stanley, the Masters of Ceremony, for introducing myself. Very, very kind of you. Ladies and gentlemen, Encik Halman, Sabri, Sarawak Skill Executive Director, representative from governments and industries in Sarawak. It is such a great honor to be able to participate and address you for a short while in this program of corporate cybersecurity awareness. And as I said, and also has been displayed in the video, the most important component of cybersecurity is the human layer. It is not the technical part, neither it is not the management part. So until and unless we are together in companies, organization, or even in government or individual, address the human layer, making all of us understand the risks that we are facing in cybersecurity, we will never be safe online. So with this preamble, I would congratulate the Sarawak skills and also the participants today for making the effort to participate in this very important session. And what I can say to you, this event or this session today will be an interesting one. I would say is a part of the edutainment and learning process for all of us. With that, let us enjoy the rest of the session today. I will be one of the moderators with my partner, Mr. Raj, which will be introduced by the MC shortly. God bless. Assalamualaikum, and peace be upon you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jess, just now for your sharing. Indeed, the increasing sophistication of cyber threats is a challenge to be reckoned with. Just now, I think it's you made a very important point that stating that the human layer is the most important component. Yes, it takes all of us to face this challenge and to tackle all these challenges, the cyber threats head on. We should not shy away from these threats. I think we are all here after today's session. We hope that we are more than capable to mount a challenge against all the cyber criminals that abound around the world. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed, I think it is just the right time to have a group photo session when everyone is still fresh, right? So I would like to invite everyone to turn on your video camera. Let's have a quick group photo session before we continue with the session. All right, so can everyone turn on your camera? Let's see, because we have so many people here, so it's good that we take a nice group photo and cherish the memories, of course. Yes, the photos are coming online. We can see people are switching on their cameras. Okay, we give a few more seconds. All right, maybe I'll do a count. Will that be okay? I'll do a count so that everyone smiles so that you won't be frozen there. All right, let's do a quick photo session. I'll count 3, 2, 1. All right, from where I'm sitting, everyone looks wonderful. All right. So our administrators have taken a photo. I hope they have taken a photo. Yes. All right, maybe we'll take another one. I'll count again, just on the safe side. All right. I think we can take the whole thing, but I just count again just in case we need. Okay, 3, 2, 1. All right, I think we have captured that. Yeah. Everything okay? All right, can we proceed? Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the next part of our session. Okay, everyone can hear me, I hope. Ladies and gentlemen, our second speaker will be Mr. Raj Kumar Kunhiraman. He is the CEO of Cyber Intelligence Sendirian Berhad. For your reference, Cyber Intelligence Sendirian Berhad is a strategic partner of Serba Dynamic. All right. Mr. Raj is a cybersecurity expert with an illustrious career spanning more than 20 years across various industry sectors. In 2011, he was the ISC Squared Information Security Leadership Award honoree. All right, a very prestigious award. His many achievements and contributions include the development of the CyberSafe program. I think quite familiar with a lot of people. It is the National Security Awareness Program for Malaysia, and overseeing the Human Impact Management for Information Security Research Project, another national flagship project awarded by the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. This was conducted in collaboration with Cybersecurity Malaysia. So on that happy note, I hand over to Mr. Raj. Over to you, Raj.
Okay. Thank you, Stanley, and I would like to welcome everybody to the corporate awareness session this morning. I have a lot to share today, so I hope you will gain a lot from this session, and let's start. Okay, so I'm going to go straight to the topic itself. Okay, this guy here, his name is Robert Mueller. He's the FBI director. He has made a very strong statement. He said that there are only two types of companies today: those that have been hacked and those that will be. What he means by that is there are a lot of companies which have put in a lot of measures to protect themselves from attackers. Okay, could be administrative measures, could be technical measures, even as far as educating the employees. But however, attackers always look for loopholes. They always look for the gaps. All right, they always find a gap, and especially if you're targeted, all right, they will come up with the right techniques and tactics to penetrate your organization. So that's where it's very important that we always stay vigilant, and we also need to ensure that we monitor all our networks. Even the people need to be well educated. All right, so attackers today, in simple terms, are very, very targeted. All right, it's good to have measures in place, but the attacks are very, very targeted, so we need to be aware of that. All right, so this is his message to everyone, for that matter. We as employees, okay, we have a role to play, all right? We need to be trained. We need to be aware of the current risks and threats which are out there, especially in the cyber world, all right? What are the risks that employees need to be aware of? Because if you understand the risk, then you know what to do, right? Okay, you will look into measures. How do I actually identify this kind of threats or risks? And what do I need to do? What's my responsibility? What's my knowledge? What kind of skills that I need to have? All right, so we're putting into 6 key areas here. Essentials: employees need to have a basic understanding where the security risks are. When it comes to dealing with emails, all of us have emails today. All right, we need to understand what is a phishing email. We need to understand what is a malicious attachment and how to deal with links in email. When it comes to internet, all right, we need to know how to browse safely. We need to understand the difference between HTTP and HTTP sites, all right, also phishing sites and some of the common threats on the web. While we're in the office, we need to know how to deal with or handle confidential information, whether it is in printed or digital format. And we also need to know how to dispose that particular piece of information and not leave it lying around. All right. A lot of people are working from home today. All right. While at home, all right, we need to know how secure is our Wi-Fi. We also need to use our laptops safely, and even that also don't leave it lying around. Sometimes you have young kids, they might come there, they might play around with it, or they might even spill something on that. All right, so we need to put those measures in. And as you know, working from office is usually more secured because you have the security team, you have the IT team, and you have a secure perimeter. whereas at home, you don't have the same level of security. Okay? Next, we also need to understand social engineering. Now, what is social engineering? Social engineering deals with hacking people. All right? Today, attackers, they attack systems, but they are more excited about attacking people because a lot of people are not aware. All right? They use many tactics. They commit frauds, scams, they send you fake messages, all right, phishing emails, even SMSs that seems to be coming from a legitimate organization, actually it's coming from the attacker. So we need to learn all this. We need to understand what kind of techniques they use, all right, what kind of attack vectors to use to get to you, all right? So, yeah.
What is identity theft? Identity theft affects millions of people each year around the world. Crafty fraudsters can steal identities in a number of ways. Some fraudsters commit identity theft by stealing physical information. They do so by dumpster diving, stealing mail, or taking discarded devices like computers, printers, or phones that have not had their hard drives wiped. Sometimes they rely on social engineering, which is when the fraudster manipulates or tricks a victim into giving up information. A common form of this is phishing, where a fraudster impersonates a trusted individual or entity and asks the victim for sensitive info. Identities can also be stolen through high-tech means like malware or data breaches, where hackers target large organizations and steal the information of multitudes of employees or customers. Information stolen through data breaches is often sold on illegal trading websites. With many different avenues to grab your information, how can you protect yourself? Make sure that all documents containing any personal identifiable information are shredded before disposing them. If you or your organization is getting rid of electronics, make sure all hard drives are wiped or rendered unreadable before disposing, reselling, or donating them. Never send personal information via email. Reputable organizations will never ask for this. If you receive a phone call asking for information, ask to call them back. Find their official phone number online and call that number back to verify the claim. Avoid using unsecured public Wi-Fi networks where hackers can be lurking. Check your billing statements and credit reports regularly to spot any suspicious activity. If you or someone you know does become a victim of identity theft, freeze any affected financial accounts. Check and freeze your credit report. File a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission if in the U.S. Report the incident to your local authorities. For more information on fraud like identity theft, visit acfe.com.
Mr. Raj, I think we have seen the video just now.
Yep.
I just would like to ask you, at the end of the video, it says report to ACFE, which is the association in America. But in the context of Malaysia, when we talk about identity theft, let's say for government or for in organization, if there is an identity theft, who should they report to?
Okay, well, if you're a victim of identity theft, that means your information you found out it's been stolen or it's gone to places that you do not know, and the attacker has taken that your personal information, has committed some kind of a crime. All right. In Malaysia, you can report to MyCERT, Malaysian Computer Emergency Response Team. All right. That's one of the organization which has been set up to handle any kind of cybercrime, and it's open to the public or even organizations. All right, so that should be your first point of contact. I know some people, they do not know, they end up going to the police. All right, police, most of them are dealing with physical, the crimes that we always hear about. All right, but when it comes to electronic crime, I think, or cybercrime, it's best for you to report to MyCERT first or get their advice before you proceed further.
Okay, but I think I know after this you're going to talk a lot more about identity theft.
Yes.
I just want to get this real issue, real life out in a Malaysian context, clarification on this. Isn't it not MyCert, Malaysian Computer Emergency Response Team, a unit under Cybersecurity Malaysia? They do not have the technical power or the legal power to act on this. So what exactly is the role of MyCert here in dealing with identity theft as compared to, say, like the regulator, the MCMC,
Yes.
or the police, as you said just now? So can maybe you can share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, my thoughts are very simple because MyCert, okay, they can advise you on the incident that you're facing, but you're right, they don't have regulatory powers, they cannot prosecute you. Okay, this is where they have to take your case or advise you on your case, to take it to MCMC, all right, just something that requires further investigation, and if it's against the law, they can advise you further. But if it's related to physical harm or cyber crime itself affecting people, of course, then they will advise you have to make a police report and you have to talk to the police and get the advice, because they can go out there and catch the criminal.
Right.
All right? Because MyCert can't do that.
Yeah.
They cannot catch the criminal, they can only advise you on this.
Yeah.
All right?
So like for organization per se, like a government agency or company like Skills Sarawak or company, oil and gas companies, for example. So if there is an identity theft issue, so who should the employee reports to in this
Okay, if the employees immediately, they should report to the security team or the IT team, which you may have within your organization, all right, and they can escalate it further. Because you must understand that people are just general employees, they would not know. Sometimes, whether they've been hacked or their identity be stolen also, sometimes they do not know. Okay, sometimes they end up in the dark web and it's being sold. We do not know, because we all end up leaving what we call a digital footprint. Okay, a lot of people are very kind to submit their information online. Sometimes they submit or post their information online, which seems to be a legitimate site, could be a fake site. This is where attackers capture your information. And next minute, you know that your information has been compromised or been misused for whatever reason, and you become a victim. But if you find that out, then you have to report to authorities. If it's an employee, first you need to report to your security team or the IT team first, all right? And they will advise you to go what's on the next step. Okay.
All right, I think I will leave you to continue with the exciting and the most important topic of today now, identity theft, digital identity theft.
Yes.
Over to you, Raj.
Okay. Cool. Let's continue identity theft. Okay, as you know, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are living with digital footprints. I don't blame you, all right, because from young kids to even senior citizens, whenever we want to go online and do something, first thing you need to create an account. When you create an account, you have to submit your personal information, all right, which includes your name, could be your email address, could be date of birth. Some of the sites will ask you even for your address. First thing you need to also look at whether the website is legitimate or not. It's a proper authority that able to gain your information. So you need to check all that. We'll talk more about that later on. Right? So we need to be very careful, because attackers, in this case, they just need your identity. All right, that's it. And they can do whatever they want as long as you have information. For example, if I want to go log into your bank account, what do I need? I just need your username and password. That's about it. All right? And nowadays, you can't just use username and password to go and do online banking. You also need to have your phone with you. All right? With the phone, they send you a secret code, right? It's called the tag code. That is the second factor. In fact, they implemented that so that they can actually verify it's really you. Username and password is not good enough. All right, but if they send you a secret code, they know it's really you because you're holding a phone that registered under your name. All right, that's what we call second factor authentication. All right, so this is one way they can actually verify you and does not lead to. I wouldn't give the answer now. All right, so I have a question here which you can post in the chat room. The correct answer. So which of the following does not lead to identity theft? right? So we have phishing emails, which are fake emails, seems like it's coming from a legitimate organization. Okay, we have malware. Okay, malware stands for malicious software. When we talk about virus, Trojan, all right, or even worms, these are all softwares or scripts which are designed to cause harm. Okay, data theft, well, it explains itself, data being stolen. Insider threat, this is where you become a threat. An employee who's not aware, all right, or performs some action that gets them into trouble, then you become a threat. All right, two-factor authentication. This is where, as I mentioned earlier, okay, the first factor is actually password when you log into a website. Second factor is something that you have. In this case, we have a phone, a secret code has been sent to you, so that's two-factor. All right, it's one way of authenticating you. We also deal with web attacks, all right, any form of web attacks, fraud, or scams. All right, so let's go to the chat room. Please post which of the following does not lead to identity theft. What could be the answer? There's only one answer there. Anyone so far? Give it a try. Anyone? Okay. Okay, I'm seeing two-factor authentication. I'm seeing insider threat, but the question, you have to go back to the question, which does not lead to identity theft? Okay, does not lead. Malware does not lead to identity theft. If your computer is compromised, all right, or affected or has a malware, it can extract your personal information out of your computer without your even knowledge. All right, insider threat. You become a threat. Okay. You can also steal information, company's information of all the staff, and you can share it with the competitor or a third party. All right. So one way of leading to identity theft. Okay. I see most of them have answered two-factor authentication, which is correct. All right. It cannot lead to identity theft because it's a measure that's used to authenticate you, to identify you, okay, to make sure if you're performing any transaction, it's really you and not somebody else. If somebody steals my password, they can log into my account. And it's not really me, it's somebody else doing that. Okay, that is wrong. Okay, good. I think all of you have performed quite well there. Next, let's go on to information leakage, how information can be leaked. There are many ways information can be leaked. All right, simply somebody can hack into your computer, take away your computer, and they can take out your information. All right. In most cases, there's always it's related to a malware being present in your computer, or sometimes a simple app that you install. All right, which seems to be a very useful application, but it's malicious. All right. So here, I'm sharing with you an example here. One way how information can be leaked. If you look at the screen very closely here, this is actually a browser feature. As you know, with your browser, you can always install what we call extensions or plugins to extend the capabilities of your browser, okay, to make it do more. In this case here, okay, you want to install a plugin, and this plugin is actually, it's a Windows Media Player extension, okay, for your browser. What it does is, it will run a video file in your browser, which is quite good, right? All right, you have to get a video, you don't have to go and open another app to watch the video. You can actually watch the video within your browser. All right. However, if you look very closely in the small fine prints there, it says all data on your computer and the websites you visit. Now, just above that, it says it can access all data and websites you visit. All right. Sometimes people don't understand that, and they tend to click on install. Some people don't even read that. They click on install. And voila. Now your browser can do more. You can play a video file in your browser. All right. But unfortunately, the attacker can access all your data on your computer. and websites you visit. Okay, this is one way that information can be leaked. There are many ways. All right. In fact, you can actually Google, you even go to YouTube, you can type in information leakage. All right. There are many examples on this. All right. The message here is basically, you know, this particular extension, it looks like very useful. People just clicked install and they become a victim. And when information is being extracted, you do not know. It happens very quietly, all right, in the background. In fact, most of the attacks today, if it happens to you or affects your computer, it's rather done very silently. So I will be sharing with you more examples later on. Okay. Let's move on. Insider threat. Okay. Insider threat means, as I mentioned earlier, you become a threat. Now, how can I be a threat? I'm an employee. Yeah, if you do something bad or harm or something against the policy, then you become a threat. Studies have shown most of the threats are actually coming from inside rather than outside today. All right? Mostly or largely due to employees not being aware and due to their behavior, due to their practice. For example, you steal or modify company's information or confidential information and use that for your own personal gain. You become a threat. Okay? You take company's confidential information. Okay? You give it to your competitor. Even discussing with your friend who's in the same industry but working in a different company, even that is, when you share confidential information, that's actually not right, even though it's verbal. All right? And it's happening out there. If you're a person, all right, you committed some kind of sabotage, all right, and affected your company's data or systems of the network, you become insider threat. Even if you receive a phishing email, you click on it because you do not know it's a phishing email, because you're not aware, you become insider threat. All right, so these are some of the examples of insider threat. So as an employee, please be very careful. If the company has security policies in place, follow them. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't read the company's security policy unless they get into trouble, all right, or they violated something. That's the only time they read. All right, so you have to follow the processes. Okay. Okay. Video.
Hello, this is Randy Trezak from the CERT Insider Threat Center with your SEI Cyber Minute.
Oh, explanation.
The threat of attack from insiders continues to be real and substantial. 27% of electronic crime events were suspected or known to be caused by insiders, and 30% of survey respondents thought the damage caused by insider attacks was more severe than damage from outsider attacks. To continue its support of the insider threat community, the CERT Insider Threat Center has released the 5th edition of the Common Sense Guide to Mitigating Insider Threats. The guide describes 20 practices that organizations should implement across the enterprise to prevent and detect insider threats, as well as case studies of organizations that failed to do so. Updates to the guide reflect the movement of government and private organizations toward the startup of insider threat programs. Specific changes include reordering best practices to better align with the development of insider threat programs, recognizing the threat posed by non-malicious or accidental insiders, significant updates to existing practices, the addition of one practice, and new case studies for each best practice. The new edition of the guide comes at a critical time for organizations developing insider threat programs. Thank you for watching this SEI Cyber Minute. For more information, please visit our website or send me an email at info@sei.cmu.edu. Thank you.
Again with you, Raj.
Okay.
Let's talk about insider threats a bit more deep. How do we address insider threats in the real sense? In other words, which compartment in the organization that should become playing the policing role to locate the insider threats, or how do we address these complexities and sensitivities of insider threats? For example, like if you are HR, would you want to do this this part, or is it a technical component that should be handled by the IT guy? So how do we look at it within the organization?
Okay, within the organization, based on my experience, governance, risk, and compliance team, they usually, they have certain guidelines or best practices to follow for audit reasons and all that. So one of the ways they do this, they actually do observation. They also go around checking whether people are actually complying to the policies, because they're the policy makers end of the day. Yeah. All right. Security team, in most cases, even IT team, they're handling most of the technical areas. All right. A lot of technical areas. Even HR, they have a role to play here. Because HR, they have to do a awareness program to ensure that every single employee is actually following the policies which are on the ground. All right. And they need to measure, they need to test, ensure that all of them actually understood. All right. And if they have not understood the policies or not doing the right thing, then they can get themselves into trouble. All right. So insider threat, sometimes it's very hard to detect also. All right. Because it's not a system that you're using which can detect any attacks that's coming in, or any kind of threats that come into the organization. You can actually test by using you can actually pick that up by using a system. Insider threat, you're looking at people. So one thing, people's behaviors. That's through observation. For example, tailgating. A visitor comes through your office, they pretend to be a visitor, you open the door for them, and you let them in. Okay, it's actually a breach of physical security, because when a visitor comes to your office, you need to know exactly who they are and why they're in your office, and they must wear an ID tag. But if the employees are not aware, they might just open the door for them and let them in. All right, so that the employee is not aware, they're just being nice. They become a threat, and you let the intruder come into your office, just to give an example. In fact, that's a breach of physical security. All right, it's a breach of physical security. Then you have to actually deal with the people who are actually handling physical security or infra for the entire organization. Not so much infra, more the physical security. All right.
I believe we have a question from MC, from any question from the other side?
Yeah, because over here we are welcoming questions from various channels. So we also have some representatives from SMEs here with us.
Let me try.
So they have one of the questions, I'll just read it out. Okay, I own a small business. Currently, I only save HR data and my orders in my PC. Should I be concerned about cyber attacks? So here is a small business owner, saves basically the staff data as well as the orders, they're doing business. So should he be concerned about cyber attacks? Either Dato or Mr. Raj could answer that question.
Okay, can you hear?
No, I couldn't hear.
Okay, can you
please
rephrase the question? Okay, no, I can hear. Okay.
Again,
yeah.
I own a small business. Currently, HR data and orders, and my orders are saved in a PC. Should I be concerned about cyber attacks?
Okay, I think the question is about someone owns a small business, like a small and startups or small and medium industry.
Okay.
Should small businesses concerns about cyber attack? You want to answer that?
Okay, based on my experience, the thing is, a lot of the small businesses, they don't worry so much about cybersecurity, all right, which I think is not the right thing to do, because majority of the organizations in Malaysia, especially, they're SMEs. And attackers know that, all right, they know that. All right, if you're going to attack a big company, a large organization, they know their security team, their measures, their monitoring mechanisms already in place. But the smaller companies, they also hold a lot of confidential information. Okay, most of them don't really worry about it, which is actually a worrying trend. Yeah. All right, they do have basic measures in place. Of course, they have the IT infra. The infra is secured. All right, they have a small IT team, they'll manage that. But again, they may not invest in doing a awareness program. All right, to train their employees, to test their employees on current threats and all that. They may not do that. All right, I've trained small companies. They are small as 20 employees. They wanted me to do a awareness program because the boss got very worried. very worried about the threats because it needs a lot of news. All right, so 20 people, good. They don't have any security policies, but they just wanted the employees to be aware. All right, so I think to me, small organizations, they must pay close attention to this. And attackers, even though they may be small, they can be a target.
Small businesses has a very tight operational cost.
Correct.
Operating cost. So deciding between bread and butter and something nice to have is a dilemma, I think. And then what are the alternatives or ways for small and medium industry companies to protect their information? We have a cloud services nowadays, and a lot of data are put in the cloud. So do you think these cloud-based services would help small and medium companies?
Yes, definitely cloud adoption has grown tremendously today, simply because the cost saving factor. All right, a lot of small companies, they do not want to invest in a lot of the traditional services where you got to buy your own hardware and software and all that. It's very expensive. So a lot of them adopt cloud services. And the tip here is basically, yes, you can use cloud services. I don't see anything wrong with that, but you have to go with a reputable cloud service provider, okay, who's been around for many years and widely used by many companies. You can check on that. And you got to follow whatever ways how they actually secure your information, because when you put it on the cloud, it's your business information being putting on a third party. All right, so you need to look at the terms and agreements very carefully. All right, and adoption-wise, it will never die. People will still adopt it because there are huge cost saving for that. All right. So in terms of security itself, the security now is basically it's on the cloud service provider. You're focused more on your employees, your physical setup, all right, and where you keep your customers' information, whether it's in the cloud or whether in the office. So your security measures has to be implemented there. Okay.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah, I think we have one more. Actually, just to pick up a point from what Mr. Raj shared just now. So, you know, when you walk into a lot of companies, you have a tendency when you look at their PCs, they put the password, username is just stuck on the PC itself. So it seems that there is a lot of sharing of resources. And because of that, it looks like the password and usernames are also shared. So in your experience, would that increase the chance of some compromises? Would you, based on your experience, your actual experience?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, passwords are access control. A lot of people don't see the importance of protecting those passwords. They feel that it's just an access to the system. That's about it. All right. They do not know the risk, so end up sharing it. And you're right. They write yellow notes. They stick it on the laptop. Some of them, since they work in the same department, we know each other for many years. All right. It's okay. We share the password. The other issue is, which I will come back to later on. We are dealing with so many accounts today. All right, so we need to look at how we're going to manage the password. All right, everybody has to deal with 10 to 15 accounts today. All right, which I'll come and touch on that later on. So we need to look at how we actually manage it. All right, and if you talk about employees, they need to know the risk of sharing passwords, using the same passwords. All right, creating weak passwords. So all this comes through the awareness program. Yeah.
Can I interject here? I'd like to add something. To me, safeguarding password is a fundamental to security, to cyber security and digital information, and it has to be embedded inside everyone. That password is just like your PIN number, your credit card or your ATM PIN number. Do you want to share your PIN number to someone? That is the value of the password. So if you want to share your PIN number to your wife, can you trust your wife? So even to the wife, I would advise no sharing of PIN number, because once you share password or PIN numbers, then the accountability part will be an issue. You cannot trace back whether the action is done by you or the action is done by someone else that you have trusted. And then this will dilute your case. If there is a case, it will dilute the case even in the court of law or industrial court, and or even internal inquiries. It provides some kind of dilemma for the management to address the issue properly. So looking at the international standards, the best practices such as ISO 27001, it really specifies that no sharing of password, no putting the password on the computer for others to see. So it has to remain private and very individual and attribute to a person that in charge of the particular responsibility. So please take note of that. Yeah.
Good points.
Valid and interesting point here. I think because we understand that this sharing of passwords seems to be a very common practice in many organizations. So I think it's something like I think Dato also highlighted together with Mr. Raj. I think the first thing is we need to do is to stop sharing passwords. I think an excellent example of whether we would share our PIN number with our family member. I think that is really interesting. So we have to keep those passwords close to our heart. Don't share with people. And that is a good step forward, I think. Very good practice. All right, I think we have just a couple of questions for the timing, but we'll be receiving more and then we'll ask the questions further down during the session. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, back to you. Continue.
Thank you. Okay, let's continue. Now, what do you see here on this slide? You see a table, all right, which looks a bit messy. Of course, there's a computer and keyboard, there's some keys, there's a calculator, there's some documents. I don't see anything wrong with this, all right, because most people, this is what they keep their table in this way, because there's, they don't want to keep their table clean. Now, there are risks in doing this. Okay, there's a policy called clear or clear desk. Now, if you look at this, imagine this is a table of an accountant or a financial executive. What do they keep on this table? Okay, you keep invoices, receipts, purchase orders, even checkbooks. All right, these are all documents. All right, can be sensitive documents, and you have to treat it the same way you treat your computer. When you come to work, you log in, you do your work, then you log off. Clear desk policy is the same thing. You come in, you leave your documents, all right? When you come to work, you can pull up all these documents to get your stuff done. Before you go back, you should put away all these documents in a locked cabinet. All right, so you have to treat it the same way as you treat your computer. All right, because anybody can come into your table, to your office, all right? They can dress up as a cleaner, all right? Or even a visitor or a contractor. They can come to your table. If they see something confidential, they can pick that up. All right? So always be very wary of this. A lot of employees are not aware of the risks, but simple things like this put you into trouble. Yeah.
Traditional hacking aims to compromise the security settings of IT systems and applications. Social engineering attackers attempt to exploit the users of these technologies by claiming to be employees, vendors, or support personnel to try to trick the workers. People are trusting and willing to help others, and the attackers use that to their advantage by deceiving users into revealing information that compromises data security. Traditional protection from malware and viruses will not protect you from a social engineering attack. Once they gather bits and pieces of the organization, they'll be able to put the puzzle together and exploit the business. One technique is phishing emails, which are typically the most successful form of social engineering. This is where hackers will send out emails to their victims in hopes of gaining sensitive information by tricking them into clicking a malicious link, giving the hacker access to information. Another technique is physical breaches. This is where the hacker does an impersonation of someone else in order to gain access to a secure location. Attackers can also use the technique of pretext calling. This is where an attacker makes up a scenario to obtain the information they need. Pretext calling often requires trust to be formed between the attacker and the victim. Don't be fooled by social engineering tactics. Be sure to train employees to follow safe security measures in the event of an attack. Employees should always be cautious when sharing personal information on social media platforms. Never open an email that looks suspicious or let a stranger connect to your wireless network. Don't give strangers personal information until you can verify where they are calling from. Review security policies to stay up to date with the latest social engineering techniques. Always use a paper shredder to properly dispose of your printed material. It is important to treat security awareness and training as an investment. For more information on social engineering, please visit us at greyvoc.com.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, now we're going to continue other ways of social engineering techniques. If you look at this screen now, you see what we call, of course, it's thumb drives, very obvious. All of us had a thumb drive before, and I'm sure you have one now. The question is, can this be used as a weapon, or what we call a cyber weapon? Okay, you can go to the chat box and post your answer. It's either yes or no. If you want to give a reason, that'd be nice. All right, so I'll give you 5 seconds to decide whether this can be used as a weapon or not. Innocent looking device, stores a lot of your files, that can be used as a weapon. Can it? Any responses so far? So far, no.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, I see a lot of people saying yes. Excellent. Okay, yes is good enough. Why? You don't have to explain. If you want to explain, you can go ahead. Okay, somebody has mentioned is because it can cause a malware attack. Correct. The way you can save a file onto your thumb drive, you can also save an infected file, all right, or a file which is embedded with the malware. All right. Now, let me give you an example. If I were to launch an attack, right, to your company from outside, it's not going to be easy. I have to go and hack into your server. Before I can get into your server, it's going to be a problem. How about I put a malware onto a thumb drive, I come into your office, dress up like an aircon service guy, all right? I'm there to service your, just say, your company's air conditioning system. I walk into your building, and I bring along 6 thumb drives, and each of those thumb drives, I will put a malware inside there. And I will label that thumb drive. I label it as, just say, 2020 staff bonus. If I label a thumb drive like that, somebody's going to pick it up and say, hey, staff bonus, I'm going to plug in and see what's inside there. Voila. I'm able to basically con you or convince you to plug in a thumb drive that looks like an innocent looking thumb drive, but it's malicious. So what would you do if you find a thumb drive like that? You found a thumb drive 2020, staff bonus, would you plug it in? Option number 1. Number 2, would you send it to IT? Or option number 3, throw it in the bin. You can post your answer in the chat box. All right, plug it in, send it to IT, or throw it in the bin. What would you do?
Send it to IT.
Send it to IT.
Throw in.
Okay, send it to IT is good because let them test it out. All right, of course they will test it in an isolated system. All right, if it's malicious, they should clean it up or delete whatever contents in that thumb drive. Okay, throw in the bin. Okay, well, I don't think many people are going to throw a bin which is labeled a thumb drive that has been labeled as 2020 staff bonus in the bin. Even if you throw in the bin, somebody else can pick it up. All right, because people will see a thumb drive as something valuable. Even though thumb drives today are not very expensive, but people see it as a device that they didn't have to pay for and they just found it in the bin. And they plug it in and they say it works. But in this case, by the time you plug it in, it's a bit too late. Okay, any other responses? Somebody said plug it in. Well, you could, but you shouldn't. All right. Any other responses? How about giving it to your friend as a present? All right, that means you become an actor. The attacker has actually used you to give the thumb drive to your friend. You actually create the situation even worse. Okay, made the situation worse. Okay, we have a technical response. Reverse engineer the thumb drive and find out the source. I don't think a normal human or employee is going to do that. All right, this is something that probably IT people would do. Or if you have a forensics unit, all right, which most companies do not have. They can do further investigation. But then again, you must see, if you want to take it to that extent, all right, there must be really super malicious inside there. But even for you to find that out, all right, it's going to be very difficult. Only the IT guys can do it for you. All right, if you found something really malicious, and this is basically just say it's a ransomware, and it can affect any other organizations, then probably you want to report to the local authorities, all right, or to some specialist agency, even MyCert, they probably can help you there. Okay. Any other answers we have? Okay, so let's have a look at this video.
New tonight, a very common computer mistake is now sending your personal information to hackers.
Most people don't even think twice about plugging in one of those flash drives, but if they're found somewhere on the ground, and that's exactly what scammers are hoping for.
I want all of your personal information, and you're making it so easy.
It's gotten even more dangerous to use these devices if you don't know where they came from.
I know you want to see what's on this flash drive.
These things are really, really useful. They're very helpful, and so when you find one on the ground, you're thinking, oh my goodness. So if you think like a hacker for a second, and you very strategically drop these infected drives around college campuses, near large companies, they know that that's just human nature. When you find something like this, plug it in and see what's on it.
Now I am stealing your passwords and bank accounts. The best part is you did it for me.
We're seeing more and more of those types of really high-level, sophisticated attacks being created to take advantage of the fact that people are more likely to put these things in when they find them than not. They can hide from those security programs. So don't count on your security software to protect you like they would with a simple virus or that type of. These are much more sophisticated attacks. So just don't take chances with these things.
Or take the chance. Maybe it will be fine. Ha 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 ha.
Nice video, huh?
Yes, a very interesting video.
Yeah.
Even an innocent-looking thumb drive, you got to be careful. It can be a weapon.
I have one question about this, one issue to raise about this thumb drive. We always use our thumb drive to transfer files to the other friends or within the company. Like, can you print this for me, or I think you copy this into my file, and then because the file is too big to it to be emailed.
Yes.
So what is your arguments on this thumb drive moving around?
Yes, thumb drives moving around. In fact, my own personal information, the only time I get infected with the virus is through thumb drive. When somebody passed me a thumb drive and I plug it to my computer, my antivirus, which is quite okay, it's quite good, or my endpoint, it picks it up straight away. It tells me, okay, this drive is infected, clean it up. In fact, this is the most common way where malware or viruses get transferred nowadays. It's the easiest way, because your endpoint, your antivirus may be up to date, but your friend's computer may not be up to date, right? So even if you're using endpoints and antivirus, make sure it's always updated, and always scan. Anybody gives you a thumb drive, always scan. In fact, a lot of companies even don't allow you to even plug in anything to the USB drive, simply because of this issue. All right, so we have to be very vigilant or very careful when somebody gives you a thumb drive, because you do not know where it's infected or not. Always check for any malwares inside there. That's the only way.
We got a question from MC.
Okay.
Yeah, Dato and Mr. Raj, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, there is a question coming in. It says here, very interesting about the thumb drive scenario, but maybe perhaps Mr. Raj or Dato, could you just share from the Malaysian context, like this type of cyber theft, I mean, using thumb drive, like just now you mentioned Acorn person dropping off a thumb drive with the bonus, but have you encountered a Malaysian context, like what is the motivation of doing this? I mean, who gains from it?
Okay, I can answer that. Usually the hackers, because they find that it's very hard for them to penetrate your network from the outside. All right. So what they will do is, like I said, they probably come into your office, drop a few thumb drives here and there, and since the employees are not aware, it looks like an innocent looking thumb drive, they just plug it in. And once they plug it in, the application is already loaded onto the computer. And in fact, your network, you can even reach your server. The attackers from outside can still, now they can access your system already. All right. So it's a very unconventional way of how attackers operate, but they are always ten steps ahead, and they always take the unconventional method and to commit something very sophisticated. And now they're using the employees who are not aware, which is very tricky. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like a start to even greater things after that. It's like a little key to open the door, I suppose.
Yes, yes. The basic example I'm giving, somebody gives me a thumb drive, I plug it in, I find the file is infected. That's it. For my antivirus will clean it up. But attackers, they have a bigger plan, much bigger plan.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
If I may add, I think this is also used by the US to penetrate into Iranian nuclear power plant. So they do not have the access from the network side or from the satellite side. So the only way to do it is to get something in, and hopefully some employee there will plug in something to the system. I think that is, this basic concept is also used by the espionage group to penetrate into companies' information system.
Yes. What Dato was sharing, I totally agree with you. It has happened before. Right? It's happened before. These are real cases. Right?
Yes, that is an eye opener, something new here, I think, because not everybody may be so familiar with the extent of cyber threats. So it looks like even an example like a thumb drive, has far-reaching implications. That's great. Thank you so much.
No worries.
And I think the other issue is the mobile phone, because usually a mobile phone has Wi-Fi, right? So you can connect directly to the Wi-Fi. So how do you respond to that, Mr. Raj?
Connected direct to Wi-Fi and all that, the Wi-Fi has been secured now. In fact, we'll be touching on that topic later on as well.
Later on, okay.
All right. So.
We will be touching on that topic later on. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now I pass it over to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
To continue.
Okay, so let's look at the next form of social engineering. Now, social engineering is not new. It's been around since mankind. If I tell you a very simplest form in a simple way, it's very simple. All right, when people try to con you, they come out with the scheme first, right? How they're going to con you? Then maybe there's some investment scheme. It looks like it's too good to be true. Then they present to you the plan. You get convinced. Then you get your money. I mean, you give your money and they end up losing their money. All right? Now, that is social engineering, hacking people. Now, here, if you look at this, all right, it says an engineering attack, but simply by impersonating. Now, who can tell me what movie is this? You can go to the chat room and post your answer. This is a very good movie. It basically focuses on very much to what extent impersonation can go. Okay, good. In fact, this slide I always use for all my awareness session. Everybody gets the answer correct because we all love to watch movie. The movie is called Catch Me If You Can, acted by Leonardo DiCaprio. Of course, he's acting. He's also impersonating. All right. He can become a pilot. He can become a lawyer. He can become a doctor, which is unrealistic. But he was able to play that role just simply by walking, talking, for example, like a doctor, wearing the uniform, acting like one, and he managed to get away. Now, here in our office environment, you have a lot of visitors, contractors. In fact, if you ask me, I can always come to your office, Sarawak Skills. I just find out what the uniform that you guys wear. Okay, maybe I will not dress up like a manager or an executive. I'll dress up like a cleaner. Maybe I'll go and see what are the cleaner uniform they wear. And I wear the same uniform and I walk into the office the next day. I'm sure none of the staff are going to question me because I'm a cleaner. How many of you have gone and seen your cleaner and said, are you really a cleaner? Can I have your ID? What's your name? I've never seen you before. None. Nobody will question because they're just cleaners, right? So this, and cleaners, mind you, they have access to all, I mean almost all your office space, right? They can go to any floor because they're cleaning. All right? So now that is a clear way of hacking people as well. I've hacked your staff because they do not know I'm more than a cleaner. I impersonate as a cleaner. All right? So you've got to be careful of this as well. All right? There are a lot of people out there just wear a uniform and they can get into premises. And we don't think about that. Okay? Because when we think about cyber, it is always related to computers, all right? Data or your information, your hardware or software. We don't think about the human side. And attackers, they are exploiting people today. All right? Next, phishing. Phishing is also a form of social engineering. It happens through email. Unfortunately, today, we are dealing with so many emails. All right? Because that's primary form of communication that we use for business, for work. However, phishing email is a serious threat. Today, we get a lot of phishing emails. All right? Phishing emails are basically emails that looks like a legitimate email, but it actually is not. You get email from, just say, Walmart, big retailer in US. People know Walmart, doesn't really relate to me. They may not even open that email. Or some Nigerian prince wants to send you some money. Even that email don't work anymore. All right? Those Nigerian scam kind of emails does not work anymore. But if you get emails that's coming from the local retailers, a Malaysian organization, people tend to click on it, okay, which I'll show you some examples. And when you talk about phishing emails, they're non-technical, it's highly effective because everybody has access to email. All right? And everybody tends to respond to an email. For example, you receive an email from the bank, straight away you say, oh, I need to update my account. I click, voila, bang. Attackers know this. So they send you these emails which looks like too good to be true, all right, or seems like it's coming from a legitimate organization. And with that email, they put in an attachment. The attachment could be malicious. If today, if you talk about viruses, trojans, keyloggers, and ransomware, okay, all this are a result of emails. Okay, I'll talk to you about keyloggers and ransomware later on. Keylogger is a piece of software that actually installed on your computer that captures your keystroke. Okay, so we'll touch on ransomware later on. So even though it's a very simple method, all right, of infecting or gathering information from you, it just simply works. You can put in controls, technical controls to actually scan all your emails before you read it, but attackers know that that doesn't happen. When you receive an email, when you click on it, if there's malicious attachment, that's when your antivirus can pick it up. The moment you download that file, it's too late. All right, it's too late. All right, back in 2017, I made a quote in an NST paper. I wrote a 2-page article actually about how organizations should secure themselves. And when it came to phishing email, I made a simple statement. I mentioned that people are the easiest target and will remain as such because they're not unable to tell the difference between a well-crafted phishing email from a legitimate email. That is our challenge today. And I will share you some of the examples in the following slides. Okay, look at this. This doesn't look like phishing email, does it? Okay, let me just show you. You have an email that's coming from Microsoft, okay, asking you to verify your account. All right, it's Office 365 account. Then you have an email from Lazada. Lazada is very kind to give you a 100 ringgit voucher, provided you click on the link there. All right. Now, people fall for this kind of emails because Lazada is a brand that we recognize, and we all love shopping. All right, we all love shopping, and a lot of people, when they receive like 100 ringgit voucher, they're definitely going to click. All right. Look at KFC. All right, this email is actually a phishing email. You get 10 ringgit off. But if you look very closely, the URL, if you can see it, look at the domain. It's not kfc.com.my, it is kcf.com.my. You see, it's a fake URL. Then the logo is not correct, the KFC logo. If you look at Lazada, it's coming from lazoda.com.my. So the domain is not actually Lazada. This is how you tell. Look at the greeting in that email. In Malaysia, we don't greet people by saying howdy. So even that kind of makes that email suspicious. All right. Office 365, same thing. It's coming from Microsoft, not Microsoft.com. So these are simple ways you can actually tell, okay, whether this is a phishing email or not. But most people don't check for the URL, don't look for spelling mistakes, all right? Don't look for signs. They just look at the promotion and they click on the link, all right? And this is the reality of today's phishing emails. They look so normal, and they use brands that we are close to. This is another form of phishing email, right? This is actually, it's an internal email. We call it Business Email Compromise, or BEC. This email is coming from the boss going to finance. The boss is instructing the finance person to make an immediate transfer, okay, to a vendor. With this email, there is an invoice. So if you're a very small company, what the finance will do is they read this email coming from the boss, they make a transfer. The money is gone. Now, this has happened before in Malaysia, usually among the very small companies, where the CEO will instruct finance directly, but does not work with big companies, because big companies, you have procurement process, you have the payment processes. All right, so be wary of even emails that's coming from internally, something that's not normal or something unusual that's coming from your bosses. All right, if you're not sure, contact that person. All right, ask them whether did you send this email or not. Especially, it involves you doing some financial transaction. Okay, now I have a small activity. All right, I call it Spot the Fish. So with this, obviously, if I say spot the fish, this is a phishing email. My question is, how do you tell? What makes this a phishing email? Look closely at this email. It's coming from IKEA. Okay, you can post in the chat room. All right, chat room, all the signs and the telltales that makes this a phishing email. Okay, the spelling mistake. So you already got the first response. Mumbers. All right, company like IKEA would not make spelling mistakes, right? All right. Usually, if they want to go with produce an announcement to the public, whether through email or radio or TV, they have a corporate comm division who will go through all this content first before they go out to the public. So there's a spelling mistake there. All right. Anything else? Okay. The IKEA logo. We all know IKEA logo is a bright blue and yellow. All right, it's not green and yellow. Okay, the URL domain. IKEA being a big company, I'm sure they have their own domain, but in this case, it's coming from asri35@gmail.com. Okay, immediately you know straight away this is not IKEA. It's not coming from IKEA. Okay, somebody mentioned follow us. Okay, follow is a spelling mistake as well. So this is a pretty bad phishing email. All right, probably one of the worst, because there's so much of spelling mistakes, the logo is not correct. Well, it's coming from google.com, it's coming from somebody's personal email ID. All right, it's not IKEA. Anything else? Okay, I think most of you done very, very well. All right, of course, like I said, this is a very good phishing email because there's a lot of things that gives it away. All right, so these are the answers. Of course, I forgive you if you are not able to see that paragraph at the bottom there. You must have very sharp eyes if you're able to see that. But of course, if you receive this phishing email in your computer, you can see it very clearly. There are tons of spelling mistakes here. All right, exclusive, take advantage, say advantage. All right, good. Okay. I see a lot of you have done very well in that exercise. Now, let's try to answer some questions here. All right. So first question. All right. How would you treat an email with Microsoft Office file attachment from an unknown sender? All right. So please give your answers. That's the first question. Number 2. Okay, we have answers. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, people are saying delete the email, trash the email, delete. Good. All right. Good. Again, we say Microsoft Office file. A lot of people, when they see Word, Excel, PowerPoint file, even PDF file for that matter, they think, okay, this file is very safe because it's a common file that everybody uses. But attackers know that. So what they do is they get a malicious file, they mask it as a Word file, as an Excel file. So you got to be careful when you receive these kind of attachments, especially from people that you do not know. In most cases, if I were to send you a file, you know me, and I'll say, look, I'm sending you an Excel file or a PowerPoint file. You're expecting that, that's fine. All right, but be wary of files that's coming from people that you don't know. Number 2, how do you tell the difference between a real email and a phishing email? Okay, I think the previous exercise has given us good tips on how to tell a difference between a real email and a phishing email. Let's go to the chat room. Okay, somebody mentioned over the mouse at the attached link to see where it leads to. Correct. Okay, you should exercise your hand, take the mouse, and just move the mouse pointer, and you can see where this link is going to take you to. That's a very good answer. Check the URL. All right. First thing, when you receive an email, check the sender. All right, and the URL itself. Number 3, what's the first thing you should check when you receive an email? Short question. I'm sure you're able to give us some quick answers. Okay? Yes, first thing you should check is always the sender, whether they recognize the sender or not. In fact, I receive a lot of emails every day. All right? First thing, I check the sender. If it's a person that I do not know, half my mind will tell me just delete. Then I check the subject. All right? If I see the subject line which says you've been selected, you want something, all right, you've been invited, in most cases, those are signs or gives you signs that it is a phishing email. So what I do, I normally end up deleting those. All right, deleting those. And if you're a person receiving phishing emails all the time, you can also inform your IT to block that domain. So you will not receive phishing email from that person. This is only not for your public emails, for your company email. Public email, you cannot call Google and ask them to block that domain. Right? For your company email, you can call IT to block that domain. Okay, let's move on. Number 4. What do you do if you receive an email, okay, with an invoice from your CEO to make an immediate transfer to a vendor? Anyone? Okay, good. Contact the CEO. But what if the CEO says, look, you cannot contact me because I'm traveling. I'm busy in a meeting. Okay, verify with CEO, try to contact them because better be safe than sorry because money involved here. Okay, money is involved. Correct. So now, even though you received the email, it's quite sensible for you to, at least try to get in touch with CEO. Don't do the transfer yet. Forward to account department. Yeah, you could forward to account department. Whatever you feel that's right during that time. All right. If it's a suspicious looking email, follow your gut feeling and just don't make the payment or transfer, even if you're in finance. Okay, when do you, let's go to the next question. When do you decide to report a phishing email? Immediately? Tomorrow? Next day? Never? Do you report every single phishing email? Because I get phishing email every day. Okay, immediately. Now, if you're a person who's going to report every single phishing email, the IT department or help desk is going to be upset with you. They will probably ask you, hey, you have no work to do. From morning and evening, you're just sending, reporting phishing emails. Okay, so you have to be selective here. If the phishing email, you yourself are able to see this is the phishing email, just delete it. But if you find that this phishing email is quite malicious, then forward it to IT. Let them deal with it. All right, that's the best thing to do. But if you keep on receiving this same phishing email from this person, then you should report to IT as well. They can block that domain, which means in the future you will not receive any more phishing emails from that person. All right? Yes, it's true. All right, we need to educate the employees. All right, so I will come to that. There's a program that we do. We call it the simulated phishing assessment. That's very, very important. We actually send you a phishing email. Then we monitor, see whether you open and click or not. If you open and click, that means you become a risky employee. You need to attend training. The training is what we call, it's in the moment. You learn as you click on the phishing email, tell you, look, this is just a mock phishing exercise. Then training video will load and tell you where you went wrong. That's very important. That's the exercise that we do. All right. I can sit down here and spend the whole day talking to you about what is phishing email. All right. Yes, you understand, you know what to look for. But nowadays, phishing emails are very sophisticated. You can't tell. So this is where doing a simulated phishing assessment is the key in educating your employees. For example, email comes from your boss. Of course, you believe your boss and you respond to it. That itself, has put you in a risky situation. Okay. Okay.
When you receive an email with a Microsoft Office file attachment from an unknown sender, what should you do? Okay, first of all, don't ever open any attachment from someone that you don't know. Okay, so if you receive an email from an unknown sender, just delete it immediately or report it to your IT department. Even if it is from someone that you know, be careful about attachment. Is there a reason for them to be sending you this file? So if it is look suspicious, so don't open it. Or you can call them to confirm that they send it to you. And then if you suspect that the attachment is an executable program, so do not open it. Okay. If you do, it may launch a virus, other malware to your computer or another machine. So if you right click on the name of the attachment, so and you look at the properties, you can see what type of file it is. Okay, so some letters that indicate the executable file include the vbs.exe.ini.pif and also BAT. Okay, so there may be legitimate reasons for someone to send you an executable file. So please make sure you know what it is before you open it. If not, just straight away delete it.
Hi, I'm Julia Walker from Cyber8 Lab. We are often asked how to spot the difference between a real email and a phishing email. And it's a really good question. Phishing emails can sometimes be difficult to spot, especially if it's a targeted email. There are two types of phishing attacks. The first is a general phishing email. These emails are not personalised to a specific victim. They are sent out to masses of people at the same time, targeting everyday internet users. The second is a targeted phishing email. This is called a spear phishing attack. These emails have a specific victim in mind, who is usually a CFO, a CEO, or a decision maker within the organisation. Both types of phishing emails can be hard to spot, especially if the attacker has taken on a psychological approach, or if they have identified themselves as a brand that their victim is familiar with. And sometimes the emails are constructed in a way that the victim can relate to their everyday life and activities. Spear phishing emails can be very persuasive because the adversary has often spent many months gathering information about their victim before executing their malicious campaign. And from what we have seen, they are often already inside your network, coming in via a business email compromise or by a man-in-the-middle attack technique. And when they execute, it is often on a Friday, because this is when you are busy wrapping up your week's projects to meet deadlines, and because sometimes the attacker will assume that you'll then be out of the office for the rest of the weekend. So my advice is always be on alert. Check the sender's email address carefully, specifically the email domain that it was sent from. No legitimate organisation will send you an email from a public email domain. And sometimes the email domain looks legitimate, but it is spelled incorrectly. Also look out for poorly written emails or emails that have grammatical errors in them. And always be suspicious of any link or attachment inside the email. A lot of these emails will often have a sense of urgency to them as well. So if the email seems like it's coming from your boss, but they have asked you to transfer a payment urgently, carefully check the invoice details and double check with your boss before making the payment.
Well, having a proactive briefing to the staff is very important, because this is how we could have prevented hackers using social engineering techniques to confuse the staff and instruct the staff to do something that they wouldn't normally do. And number one is awareness. Number two is the processes that we have in place. For example, if there's any change request for changing payment accounts, changing financial details, all these have to follow through certain documented procedures. So meaning that beforehand we should have documented what are the processes in place the staff need to follow. Then we will have a very effective ways to go against what these hackers trying to do. Well, if I receive an email that comes with an attachment, and particularly the emails coming from someone that I do not know, right? First of all, I will look at the context of the email. What is this email about? By looking at the context, like the content, is it something about request for help? Is it something that just to let me know this is a statement? So I will look at the context of the email first, and of course I will always ensure that at my endpoint I will have the latest version of antivirus, latest version of EDR, ensure my systems are all patched, right? And this is the best way to defend against any potential viruses and malware that comes in together with the email, assuming that they bypass our anti-spam solutions. So the first thing I check when I receive an email, of course, looking at the senders, who is the senders, where is the sender coming from, and what is the context of the email, what is the content, and of course, always be precautions before you open up any email, particularly opening attachments coming from someone that you do not know. And if the emails contains any links, be always very careful, because some of the hackers could use the link to redirect you to a very well convinced website, and then they will perform other kind of techniques on you to confuse you, to lead you to do something that you wouldn't do. So be very careful when click on links in the email. My advice is that if you're not sure, don't click on any links. The second thing is, when you open up the attachment, ensure that you have the latest version of antivirus installed and your system are fully patched. And if you receive an attachment coming from a stranger, that a person you didn't know, and be very cautious and check with your friends and or your colleagues who are very well versed in IT, and ask for their help.
Hello. If you ask me what are the latest threats to the corporate or enterprises in Malaysia, I will tell you ransomware. So what is ransomware all about? Ransomware is a malware, that affecting the servers, and then, the hackers may potentially encrypt your content of the server and ask for ransom. So what caused the ransomware? Ransomware was spread basically using, email. And when your employee negligence, ignorance about that, with one click that they click on, they may potentially download the malware into the organization that cause the system be compromised or be breached. So as a corporate users, when you suspect the email is phish email, what shall we do? First, report to your IT department. From there, let them investigate, where are the source of the email, and then let them determine whether the mail is actually phishing or not. If the phish mail is serious, and after reporting to company, I would suggest that, we may even want to report to authority like MCMC for the further investigation. I hope it helps. Thank you very much.
Okay, good to hear from our partners and experts as well. Some of them I know them very personally. Okay, so let's continue. We're still on the topic of phishing. I'll keep it quite brief. So let's touch on reporting. Right? When you're reporting phishing email, well, there's certain information that you must provide to your IT help desk or IT team. Okay, you need to mention things like reported by who, the date, received by who, the received date, and you have to give an attachment if the attachment is there. All right, then you forward that email. In fact, some of the companies, they have a form for you to fill up. All right, but to me, the easiest way to report to IT or help desk is just forward that email, let them investigate. Okay, some simple steps. I know our partners, experts, they've given a lot of tips. Of course, I have some simple tips here as well. Don't give any sensitive information based on email requests. In fact, nowadays banks don't send you email and ask you for your personal information. So be wary of that. And be careful of links. Don't believe everything that you see. If you find that this email looks a bit suspicious, in most cases it is suspicious. All right. So simulated phishing assessment is an activity that we do to train the employees on how to deal with phishing email simply by sending them a phishing email. Then we see whether they open and click or not. If they click, then a training video will load and they will be learning on the fly. Okay, we will run number of phishing email templates so they get a feel of various types. Some of the templates are very easy to detect, some are much more harder to detect, especially the emails if it's coming from internally from your boss. All right. Next form of social engineering is called vishing. Vishing is like voice phishing. I'm sure you've got this before, where somebody calls you pretending from the bank. In fact, the banks call you all the time. And if they do call, the question is, how do you verify whether the bank is really calling you or not? You can't tell. I can pretend, I can be CIMB Bank, I could be Maybank, I can make you a call, all right? Make a call to you, you will not know. All right, so be wary of this. If income tax or the banks call you, or even Mahkamah, I've received those kind of calls before, and I say, look, I told the guy, don't waste your time, I don't have any case with the court, all right, things like that. What they're trying to do is they're trying to fish for your personal information. That's it. If you look at this picture here, the staff, the boss, who's the manager, asking the staff for admin access. As you know, admin access is a high-level access, it's a super access. If you have admin access to any of the servers, you can do whatever you want. The question is, if your boss asks you for admin login, would you give to your boss? You can post in the chat room your responses. Your boss calls you up, look, I need admin access because I need to look at the system very carefully. Would you give? Okay, any responses? You can just type in the chat box. Anyone? Your boss wants admin access, a super user access, so you can access the system. Would you give if you are the employee? Any responses so far? No. Okay, no responses. Of course you wouldn't give, because I'll give the answer then. Okay, the answer is no, correct. You should not give, even if it's your boss. Because admin users are super users. Only certain people in the organization, okay, that follows their roles and responsibilities. All right, if you're a head of IT and you need to have admin access because you're IT guy, you need to access the system, you need to have full access. But other employees, whether you're HR, accounts, even a senior management, or a senior manager, or a manager, or a head of department, they're given access, enough access for them to log into the system and do work as a normal user. There's no reason for you to get super user access. All right, so in this case, you should not give. All right, because it's according to the company's policies as well. And it's very much access privileges are based on your roles and responsibility. All right.
Unethical. He doesn't have the clearance.
Okay, it's unethical. Somebody mentioned it's unethical. He doesn't have the clearance or the privilege or the permission. Okay, it's not the right thing to do. Okay, so again, we're faced with all kind of wishing kind of messages today. Be careful of numbers. You know, somebody calls you, you check the phone number, you don't recognize the number or it's not within your contact list. Be extra careful. You can also choose to ignore it. Even WhatsApp, even SMSs, you get random numbers nowadays. Be careful when you read the message itself. Usually a lot of it related to some kind of scam, and especially those asking for your personal information. You've got to be extra vigilant against that. There's another form, smishing. Okay, this is basically a message coming through your SMS. In this case, it's a bank user. We have detected some unusual activity. We urgently ask you to review your account. Now, even for your phishing email or any messages that you receive, if it starts with, we have detected some unusual activity, 100% I can tell you it is phishing. They always start with that line. I do not know why. All right. In this case here, this is an SMS. Don't click on the link because something can happen to your phone or your smartphone. And look at the number. This person is very lucky to get that kind of number. It's 03123456 right up to 9. Okay, that raises suspicion immediately. Then not only that, the link. Okay, how many of you receive SMSs with links? Be careful of that. If you receive it, just ignore it. Okay. So let's have a look at a short video.
Social engineering. It's more than smiles. Ayu is the CEO of Big Oil Corp, a public-listed oil company. Ayu has big plans to propel the company forward despite a very rough economy with oil prices plummeting. Ayu works closely with Lawrence, the company's chief information security officer, in ensuring that all their company's sensitive information is kept safe and does not fall into the hands of their competitors or anyone with malicious intent. Mr. Brown is a social engineer, and he is trying to steal valuable information from Big Oil Corp. He decides that the best way is by exploiting the mistakes made by the employees of Big Oil Corp. Early one morning, Mr. Brown makes his way to the lobby of Big Oil Corp and waits for a target employee that he intends to trick into letting him into the company premise. Mr. Brown notices Jakob, an employee of Big Oil Corp, who seems to be in a rush and quickly approaches Jakob with a big smile.
Jakob! I left my badge at home and I'm already late for a meeting with the board. Do you think you can let me in, Jakob?
Okay, sure. Just follow me. Oh, I need to run off for my meeting as well. See you later.
Alright, thanks, Jakob.
Once Jakob was out of sight, Mr. Brown takes a walk around the workspace and notices many information security flaws. Unlocked laptops, password written down on paper, access cards, company confidential data, meeting minutes, and printouts lying around. Mr. Brown then goes to a meeting room and sees the sales target and business plan for Big Oil Corp on the whiteboard.
Aha! I can sell this information.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, going to go for a short break very soon. I'll pass it over to Mr. Stanley. Questions?
Thank you so much, Raj. So I think before we take a short break, we have one question. Is it okay to ask you a question right now?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, the question is, I hope you can hear me. There is an expectation that when you invest in an IT system, it comes with the necessary security tools. What's your view on this?
Okay, nowadays, if you buy any system, it comes with security tools. Sometimes it's like Windows, it comes together with Windows security tools, which by Microsoft, which is fine. But if you buy a server and they plug in a lot of these third-party security tools, you need to ensure that it's actually tested for security. In fact, if you buy like servers from Dell and all that, any tools that comes with it, any security tool, it's actually been tested. Otherwise, because they'll be liable, because they are bundling it together with the server that you have bought. All right. So security teams, even the IT teams, if you in fact buy any hardware or software for the matter, ensure they're able to prove there is some security measures on whatever solutions they have in there. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I think of course even though it comes with the security tools, I think we need to really look at it and perhaps even need to tailor the tools to suit each organization.
Usually a lot of big vendors today, especially if you buy from big vendors, you don't have to worry so much because they already put on this. Otherwise, it's going to be bad for their image. All right, companies cannot be selling hardwares with vulnerable software inside there. All right, and we have to be careful also. We don't install third-party softwares which are not tested. Yeah.
True. Yes. Okay, so I think now I'm looking at the time now, Raj. It looks like it is now 10:57. So I think it is timely now. We take a 5-minute break. But before that, Raj, thank you very much for your wonderful insights. I think we have come across, I've listed down here, maybe later, a few key takeaways that we have benefited from the first session, as well as I'm glad that you posed a lot of thought-provoking questions. I think that really helps to facilitate the understanding of this very interesting topic. All right,
yes,
so
yes,
based on that, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our first session by Mr. Raj. We will now take a 5-minute break. The second session, I think we will just start at 11:05. By 11:05, let us start sharp at 11:05. We will entertain you with some music in the time being while waiting to start the second session. Thank you very much. See you at 11:05. Welcome back, everyone. So we'd like to thank our friends at Serba Dynamic for sharing that music video. Yeah. Right. So let's get started with the second session. We hope to finish by 12:30 p.m. today. All right. So over to you, Mr. Raj, to share the second session.
Thank you, Stanley. All right, so we're going to go into the topic of managing passwords. All right, I know today we are dealing with so many passwords. All right, if you count how many accounts you have today, I can count. I have about 10 to 15 accounts, and I think it's the same for you guys. You have number of banking accounts, social media accounts, your company accounts, your email accounts, and somebody comes up to you and says, look, you have to change your password every 3 weeks. How am I supposed to change passwords for 10 to 15 accounts? At the same time, how do I remember all those? As you get older, your memory gets affected. So, a lot of people, what they tend to do is they tend to write it down somewhere, or they use a common password for number of accounts, which is not good security. All right. So my message today is more on let's learn how to manage password. There is an application, it's a cloud-based application, it's called LastPass, it's quite secure. In fact, a lot of people in the world are using this. With this service, you can actually keep all your accounts and your passwords in one place at LastPass. All right, so your username, password for each of the accounts are there. But you've got to be very careful as well. Make sure you create one super strong password to protect all your accounts. Because the attacker gets hold of your LastPass password, they will have access to all your accounts. All right, so this is a simple tip that I can give you. Of course, the best tip is always to create a strong password and unique password for each of the accounts. But sometimes it's not practical. This is the reason why people write it down. This is the reason why people reuse the same password. Okay. Now, password hygiene check. This is a website, it's a secured website. It's called haveibeenpawned.com. This site, you can go and key in your email address and see whether your email account password has been leaked or breached. All right. So you can do this now or in your own time. You can use your phone or a computer. All you got to do is key in your email address. All right. It can be a corporate email address, can be a public email address such as your Outlook email or your a Gmail account. Then it will show you how many sites where this password has been leaked or breached. All right. Then I will tell you exactly what to do. Some of you might get 5 websites. So far during my session, the record that I got so far, one person had 10. Their email address password has been leaked to 10 websites or breached to 10 websites. All right. Now, you can do that now. You can post in the chat box. All right. If you want to be kind, you can tell how many sites your email password has been breached. Yes, it's safe. It's well known. In fact, I wouldn't be sharing any sites which are not safe. All right, I'm creating a problem for you. All right, this actually is a very safe site. It's providing a service. All right, good. So I'm seeing some responses now. Okay, no poundage found. Okay, that's good news. All right, congratulations. Another person mentioned, okay, we have somebody with 5. Okay, another person says no. Poundage found, that's good. Somebody said 7, okay. The record is still 10, so if 7 means you're second. One person said 1, another one said 4. We have about 300 people on this session. I'm not expecting to receive 300 responses. I think most importantly is you're able to check and see the outcome of your email password on this site. Now, for those of you who have found that your password has been pawned, don't panic. All right, don't panic. What you got to do is now or after the session, go and change your password and create a strong password, at least for 8 to 12 characters, alphanumeric with symbol. That would be good. And don't go write that down. Try to memorize it. Okay? Or use LastPass for that matter. All right? So this information you should share with your colleagues, your friends, and family members. All right? So this is something that I use this quite frequently. At least once a month, I will just key in my email address and see whether my password has been leaked before or not. Okay? So this is called a password hygiene check. Next, let's move on. Two-factor authentication. What is this? All right, we do it, but sometimes when somebody says two-factor authentication, people will ask, hey, what is this? Never heard of it. All right. In fact, when you do a banking transaction, with banking transaction now, you have to enable, in fact, you don't have to enable, banks forces you to use two-factor authentication, which means that you have to key in your password. Next thing, you have to have your phone with you, and you have to receive that security code. Now, what they mean by two-factor, the first factor is something that you know, that's your password, something you remember. All right. Second factor is something that you have. In this case, it's your mobile phone. There's also a third factor. It's called something that you are. Your phone nowadays you have Face ID, or use your fingerprint. All right, or use facial recognition. That is something that you are, which cannot be copied. It's extremely hard. More layers of factors of authentication, more secure your account is. In fact, I encourage you to enable two-factor authentication for all your accounts, your Facebook account, your Gmail account, all right, your Google account. In fact, today a lot of the big providers, they do have this two-factor authentication. You should enable it. All right, for banks, you don't have to enable it because those banking portals or online banking sites, they already enable two-factor for you. All right, otherwise you cannot transfer money. Okay. Any questions? If you have any questions, you can post it in the chat box. I'll be able to answer you. Any questions so far? Okay, maybe you can leave the questions to the end of the session as well. Next, let's go to websites. There are secure websites, there are not secure websites. But how do we tell? First thing, look at the URL. All right. There are two types of websites, HTTPS. I'm not going to ask you what S stands for. Obviously, it's secure. There's another sites which are just HTTP. Now, very importantly is what is the difference? HTTP site means the website is secured. Whatever information that you submit or post, it's encrypted. Which means if I type ABCD, when I click on submit, it's not going to go as ABCD. It's going to be encrypted in a bunch of characters that an attacker, if they intercept, they won't be able to figure out the information that you posted. All right. To check whether this website is secured, first thing, look for HTTPS. Secondly, look for the padlock. If you see a padlock, like we see there, that is a secured site. If you click on the padlock, it will tell you the information that you are providing or submitting, it's a private. So they put it in very simple terms. HTTP sites are not secured. So if I type in ABCD and I submit, it will go as ABCD and it will not be encrypted. So it's basically submitted in plain text. In fact, nowadays Google, all right, when they do crawling, they pick up most of the HTTP sites. If your site is HTTP, it's not easy for Google to pick it up. All right, always check for this, especially if you're carrying out any transaction. If you go online shopping, online banking, all right, especially online banking, you've got to be careful. Okay, even the fake banking sites, they don't have HTTP, don't do any transactions whatsoever. Okay. So let's look at some URLs here. As you can see here, this papermail.com, obviously it's not secure because it sounds like PayPal, but it's not. It's a scam link. There's no HTTPS, there's no padlock. Okay, this is how you tell. You look below. This is paypal.com. It's a legitimate link. The domain name is correct. It's HTTP site and there's a padlock there. Even mentions the company name. All right. Always check the URL. Okay. Some of the tips I like to share with you is basically if you go to a site all the time, always good to bookmark it. Okay. Once you bookmark, you're always going to the correct site. But if you're a person who like to type, all right, or do a search, like if you do a Google search, it will pick up HTTP sites. But even that also, please check the URL. All right. Okay, next, a little exercise. Can you tell? This I call it eye test. I will test your eyes. Now, these are the URL for facebook.com. Now, which one would you click? The first one, or the second one, or the third one? Even though it looks very similar, some of them told me that, oh, the second one, the O looks like 0. But then again, our eyes, when it looks at this URL, it is Facebook anyway. All right? So which one would you click? First one, second one, third one? Anyone or none? You can post in the chat box your answer. Somebody said second. Okay. Okay, hover mouse on each one. So bring your mouse pointer, you just move the mouse pointer towards the link. Why do you do that? I'll give you the answer in about a few seconds. Okay. Somebody said none. Come on, you want to go to Facebook, you have to click on the link. You can't say, okay, I want to go to Facebook, but I'm scared to click on the link. When clearly it looks exactly like a Facebook URL. Okay, move the cursor to each of the URL. Now, that's what you got to do. All right? Now, even though the URL is correct, in fact, I tell you all the URLs correct. Okay, all these are correct. Nothing wrong with that. But what happens when you click? That's what makes all the difference. Because you can be redirected to a fake Facebook page or redirected to a malicious site. In this case here, the first one, if you move your mouse pointer, it's showing that it will show you the URL, classtools.net. Okay, in this case, and it takes you to that particular website. The second one takes you to Facebook. The last one takes you to a malicious website, removemalwarevirus.com. When you click on this link, it's too late. It's already taking you to a malicious website. That's why you should always bring your mouse pointer, check the URL. All right? But unfortunately, on a smartphone, you can't do that because smartphone, you don't have a mouse. So how do you deal with that? Well, if you're using a mobile phone or a smartphone, use the Facebook app. Don't go to the domain and key in the URL. Use the app because apps are secure, provided you have downloaded from Google Play Store or Apple Store, because those have been tested for security. Very basic exercise. All you got to do is just move your mouse. That's it. And attackers, what they do is they will buy domains like ClassTools, removemalwarevirus.com. They cannot buy facebook.com because that domain belongs to Facebook. All right? Okay, so I think we have a question from MC.
Yes, Raj, we have a question here. Thank you very much for sharing so many great examples. The question here says, would it be possible for an organization to be totally unaware that it has been a victim of a cyber attack? You know, maybe a cyber attack has been happening, data is being lost, but they're not even aware. Is there such a situation?
Yes, there are many situations like that, many situations. That's why today it's a must, all right, to have a security team who need to constantly monitor their websites or any of the domains they may have. In fact, nowadays you can buy systems, you can buy cyber intelligence, not my company, threat intelligence systems which can actually monitor, all right, any incidents or any threats that's coming to your company. You can also monitor all the servers as well, all right. So the security team's job is just to do that, all right. Or more specifically, the Security Operations Center. Okay, a lot of big companies have that. Security Operations Center, they are like, you know, like in the physical security, you have your security guard, you got your post, you got a secure perimeter, that's physical, all right? But in the cyber world, we need to have a Security Operations Center, okay? And also a Network Operations Center. Their job is to monitor any attacks or threats that's coming in, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, Raj, you know, you made a great point there because the next question somehow I think was anticipating your answer. It says, they want a lot of organizations, they have an IT department or MIS department, you know, it goes by different names.
Yes.
But nowadays, you know, because the cybersecurity is so, I mean, the cyber threats are so advanced, what kind of training do we need for the department staff? Because some people may have joined years ago and they may not be up to date on the kinds of cyber threats. So could you comment on that? Like training available for the members of our, not only staff, but specifically IT staff maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of training involved. Okay, so if we talk about compared to 15, 20 years ago, today we have basically looking at the roles of the people who are involved in IT or security roles. There's specific training for them that they can attend. And this training they have to attend continuously because there are always new threats, all right, new way of doing things, new methods, new tools, new guidelines for the matter, so they need to keep themselves updated. The other issue, the other thing is I need to share is a lot of companies have IT department and good. But some of them, they put the role of cybersecurity operations under IT department. Provided they are trained in cybersecurity and they're able to perform their roles is good. We cannot assume the IT guys should handle cybersecurity because IT guys are IT trained. They handle infrastructure, software, hardware, and all that. They're not specifically trained in cybersecurity. All right, that's why I always encourage to have a dedicated department. But sometimes the company is very small, so at least send them for cybersecurity training, more on the area of dealing with incidents, okay, dealing with malwares, okay, how to actually become an analyst in Security Operations Center, SOC. The most basic thing is to have a Security Operations Center. That helps. Sometimes you may not have your own resources, but you can always outsource it. There are a lot of providers out there who actually manage the security operations for you. Yeah.
Okay, okay. It's good to hear that you know there's some training available because we know things are changing very fast. So definitely training is a must nowadays. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Raj.
Okay, we will continue. Okay, this is a PayPal website, as you can see. Now, my question is this a legitimate site or a fake site? Or could be a malicious site? Look at the website very carefully. You can post your responses in the chat box. Look at the URL, look at the features of the website. Tell me whether it's a legitimate or a fake website or malicious website. Okay, somebody quickly responded fake. Is that a safe answer? Since I asked you whether this is a legitimate or a fake website. Now everybody's saying fake, fake, fake. Looks fake. No HTTPS. Okay. Fake, it's not secure. Now question is, how did you tell? To me, it looks like a legitimate website. It's PayPal. Sometimes you look at the URL, security-paypalcenter.com. That gives me some level of confidence. No padlock. Okay, we are done with the padlock part. Okay, what else? Look closely at the URL. I'm just giving you a hint. What's wrong with the URL? Okay, good. Somebody mentioned URL. PayPal.com is the official one. PayPal is a company. If you're a company, you can buy PayPal.com. All right? You can buy the domain. If it's Microsoft, Microsoft can go buy Microsoft.com. All right? Now, in this case here, if it's PayPal, then it should be paypal.com/security or login or web apps. In this case, this URL, the domain is security-paypal-center.com, which I can go and buy in 5 minutes. And I don't have to produce any documents. All right? So, if you look at the URL very carefully, especially if it belongs to the company and it does not start with the company name, then it's a suspicious site. In this case, they're trying to phish your email address and your password. Basically, they try to get your login ID. All right? So be careful. A lot of people are not able to tell this. All right? Simply because it looks legitimate, but the domain name is not correct. You go to any website, make sure it starts with the company name itself. All right? If you're not sure, what you do is, my simple tip is, you copy the URL, you go to your Google search engine and do a search. When you do a search, if this is a malicious site, somebody would have talked about it. It would have been published somewhere. Okay? So that's the best way we can do it, because sometimes we also can't tell whether this is a legitimate site or not. Okay? So, yep. Next, let's go to pop-ups. Okay? Those days, you know, you go to certain websites, you get so many pop-ups. You end up closing one by one. You close one, another one pops up. Close another one, pops up. But today, you don't really face that much because our browsers are quite advanced. All right? They know how to deal with pop-ups today. However, if you get pop-ups, so in this case here, there's a pop-up here. It says, congratulations. You have been chosen to receive a Gateway desktop computer. Now, you want to close this pop-up. How do you do it? This pop-up could be malicious. Okay? They want you to click. All right? If you click, you could load a spyware. Spyware is an application that's designed to spy on your computer. So in this case, my simple question is, how would you close this? I think there's a slight hint at the bottom there. But let's just focus on the pop-up itself. We all know Windows very well. All right? To close a dialog box or even a window in most cases, either minimize, maximize, or you have to click on X. Now, how many of you would click on X? You can put your responses in the chat box. Is clicking on X is the safest thing here? I mean, it's a Windows feature. Okay, somebody said go to some browser setting. Correct. You can configure your pop-ups. I will show you in a short while. Okay, Control W. Sometimes click on X. Sometimes I will click on X. Okay. Now, you got to be careful of this. Okay, a lot of them are saying, I see most of them click on X. Yes, the right thing to do is actually click on X because that's what Windows have taught us. But in this case, attackers know you are going to click on X. So in this case here, the X could be execute. Execute means click, you download the application because attackers can program this window here. So you got to be very, very careful. This is the reason when you receive pop-up, you have to kill your browser. If you kill your browser, everything gets shut down, even the pop-ups. And how you do it, you go to Control Delete, you go to your Task Manager, you close your browser. All right, this is the best thing to do rather than clicking on X. Because remember, if you look at that pop-up here, it says congratulations. All right, so it sounds like it's too good to be true. All right, so that's my tip, how to deal with pop-ups. You can also turn on the pop-up or off the pop-up in Google Chrome or even in Internet Explorer. All right, the instructions are there. All right, I don't want you to memorize the instructions. You can just, if you want to manage your pop-ups, you just go to Google, you can search, they'll tell you the step by step. All right, now we shouldn't completely turn off pop-ups because there's some pop-ups that we need to allow, some pop-ups we want to block. So if you go to Google Chrome, you go to setting, privacy setting, under site setting, you have pop-ups and redirect, you get this menu here, okay, or this setting box here. Then you can block and allow. Nowadays, if you notice, if you go to certain online shopping sites, all right, you go to MyEG, for example, you want to renew your car insurance and road tax. When you make payment, you get redirected to your banking site. When you get redirected, your banking site is actually a pop-up. Okay, that's fine because you need to make payment. So that you can allow. Okay, but some websites you go to, you get annoying pop-ups all the time. You go here and you just add to the block list. As simple as that. All right, in your Google Chrome. I think Google Chrome is the most popular browser today. If you're using Internet Explorer, all right, you can allow the websites or you can set a blocking level. Same thing in Internet Explorer. You have to click on the gear icon, you go to Internet Options, you have a privacy tab, you can turn on pop-up blocker. So today, the good news is you can manage the pop-ups. All right. So if you go to a site like this, all right, there's a pop-up like this, you can actually disable it. You can, by default, you can set as disable all, but allow some. Okay, this is how we manage pop-ups today. Next, cookies. All right. Cookie is a small piece of data that's sent from the website and stored on your computer, okay, in the browser itself. Today, you notice if you go to a lot of the websites, they'll ask you whether you want to accept the cookie or not accept. All right. Now, cookie by definition, it's quite useful. All right, but people are raising the question of privacy because your information being captured by the website and now it's locally stored. Now, what is so good about cookies? It can keep track of your login information, for example, your username, but not your password. It can keep track of your browsing history. It can keep track of items that you left in your shopping cart. It can keep track of the language that you prefer. All right? Can you imagine if you go to a website today, the first time you went to this particular website, all right, when you went to this website, what happened was it asked you, what language do you want to see the website in? English or Bahasa? So just say you selected Bahasa. Now, that information is stored in a cookie, in a file, and is stored in your browser. Next time when you go back to the same website, it's not going to ask you which language again because it's already been stored, unless you clear the cookie. So that's very useful. For example, if you go do online shopping, you added some items in the shopping cart. All right, you added some items in the shopping cart, but you did not make the purchase or check out. Next day you come back, the items will be still there because that information is stored in the cookie. You go to AirAsia, same thing. You wanted to book, all right, you wanted to book a flight, then you decided, okay, I'm not sure whether I want to fly, but you already selected where you want to go, you already selected where you want to go, the dates, but you have not checked out yet. So that information is still stored in the cookie, all right? So it's a useful application, but you have to accept the cookie today, all right? So you can be tracked, all right? Now, you can actually delete the cookies, all right? All of us are familiar with browsing history. You can go there. Now, the browsing history, as you can see, it has many features, many settings. So when you delete the browsing history, you can also delete the cookies, but you can disable that, all right? So your cookies be there. To me, I personally, some of the websites that I go to very commonly, those cookies, I just leave it because it helps you to load the pages faster, much faster, because it has already captured some of the information. That's why if you notice, when you go to a website for the very first time, it takes a bit of time to load. But next time when you go back and visit the same website, it loads much faster, all right? Because some of the information has already been captured, even your locations is also captured as well. That's why it's becoming an issue of privacy. That's why today they will ask you, all right, accept cookies or not, all right? Is there any questions you can post on the chat room? Stanley, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Raj, yes. Just now we noticed in the chat room there was a question. It reads like this: if pawned, what is the rectification measure?
Sorry, pawn.
Yes, I think that if what pawned, PWNED, right? What is the rectification measure?
Oh, for the password.
Post in the chat room.
Oh, okay. Now, the password hygiene check, is it? Are we going back there?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Very simple. You got to change your password, create a strong password. That's the first thing you should do. And also, next thing you should monitor your account later, because even if you change your password, they could capture your password again. Okay, that's the rectification. All right, and enable two-factor authentication if a website has that feature. I mean, Gmail has that.
Raj, would you be able to take any more questions? Because we have other questions coming in. Would you be able to take one or two more?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Okay, maybe I just go on to the next question. It says, due to the increasing sophistication of cyber threats, cyber threats are keep on changing and getting more and more complicated and advanced. How can an organization keep up without breaking the bank? I think it's trying to say that it's very expensive to have new upgrades and all that. What's your view on this?
Okay, the straight answer would be it's good to have a dedicated security team who constantly monitoring. As I mentioned earlier, the Security Operations Center, because that's their job. Because employees themselves, they can't keep track of threats, because we as employees, we go to work, we get our job done, we go back home. You can't expect a HR person or accounts department keeping themselves updated on the latest threats. All right, this is where awareness programs is very, very important. We do the program for them on a monthly basis, with communicating with them the current threats, and this is how you need to protect yourself. All right. Today, that has to be part of the organization culture. All right, and a lot of people are not aware of that. You must make it a part of the organization culture. All right, this is the only way the employees can be updated. All right, for a security team, that's their job. Yeah, and in fact, if they see any new threats which are highly dangerous or whatever, then this is something that they can actually turn into a topic in a awareness program. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. Yeah. I think I'll have another question. So I think I'll ask it straight away.
Okay.
Because I think it's related to your answer just now. It says, in an organization, staff members have different levels of IT literacy. In an age of the multi-generational workforce, how do we encourage buy-in among staff members to create a strong security culture?
Okay. Simple question with a simple answer. To create a strong culture, I mean, we look at the word culture. What is culture today? Culture means everybody does the same things, the same behavior, practice the same thing, and they have the same belief. That's what the culture is. So, if I'm going to achieve a strong security culture, of course, I need to have a strong awareness program that's continuous, that engages every single employee. All right, they must believe in the program. I mean, we look at the Kuwait situation today. it became a culture that wherever you go, we have to scan, we have to take our temperature. But initially, it was not a culture at all. For us, it was a new practice. I know it's like, I need to have the app, I have to write down, take temperature wherever I go. But today, it's quite normal. All right? Today, I have to wear a mask. I don't think twice about it. But the early days, it took me for a while to get used to this new way of doing things. All right? But now it's quite normal. So we have to take the same approach for awareness. All right? We have to come out with the awareness program. All right? Communicate with all employees that's related to what they are doing. All right? We cannot be talking deep into malwares, and what the employees would do when they're faced with the malware, actually they don't do anything. They have an endpoint, they have an antivirus, and that takes care of it. Once in a while, we should give them some advice. All right? Make sure your endpoint's updated. You can manually check as well and update your systems. All right? Take care of your computer as you take care of your phone. You don't share your phone with anybody, and when you get an update on your phone, quickly you go and update that. So the same practices. That's the way you have to do it. There's some tips on mobile security as well, which I'll share in a short while. Okay, I hope
the culture, yeah, I think it's, you hit the nail right on the head. We need to have a strong security culture. I think, yes, that's right. You are right on point there. And there's a question that has just come in the chat room. This one is a direct message to the moderator here. It says, under social engineering topic, smartphone, is Truecaller app safe?
Okay, I can answer the question. Okay, Truecaller is a very popular, the phone app, which is an extended version of your normal caller ID. It also picks up people that you do not know. All right. In terms of the issue of privacy, I think it's quite safe because it's quite popular. In fact, most of the time when I hear about new apps, all right, which here this one can track who's calling you. All right. So I'll go on Google and do a little bit of research to see whether the app itself is secured or not. All right. Then it's up to you whether you want to use it or not. A lot of people use it simply because they're getting a lot of spam calls, people that they do not know, and they do not know which app to use. So Truecaller, they will go with something that's very, very popular. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Raj. I think that is the questions those are the questions we have for the time being. Perhaps we will have a few more later in the session.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's continue. Okay, now we're going to move on to public Wi-Fi. A lot of people use public Wi-Fi. It's public. It's highly accessible, especially in Malaysia. It's everywhere. All right, but we need to be aware of the risks, whether it's secured or not, whether we are accessing the right public Wi-Fi. All right. For example, if you go to Starbucks, now you go to Starbucks, they'll give you're going to buy a coffee, and they will give you a receipt and which has the passcode or the PIN number for you to access the Wi-Fi. Now that is legitimate legitimate Wi-Fi. Sorry. Now I can go to Starbucks. I can create my own access point, and I call it free Starbucks Wi-Fi. Now the customers will come to Wi-Fi and say, "Hey, free Starbucks Wi-Fi." The computer picked that up. Then they connect. Actually, they're not connecting to the legitimate Starbucks Wi-Fi, they're actually connecting to my laptop because I've created a fake access point that looks like Starbucks, sounds like Starbucks, but it's not. That's why they call it the evil twin or man in the middle attack. All right. Now, if you go to hotels, it gets a bit more complicated because hotels, there are many access points. You go to lobby, you go to the rooms, every floor, there are many rooms there. Just say level 1 Hilton, level 2 is Hilton, level 3 is Hilton. Just say that's the access point name. I can go and check into one of the rooms there and I create level 1 Hilton free. Then I get all the people on the same floor connected to my laptop. All right, I can get access to their information. I can see which websites they're going to. I could even read the email if I want to, get whatever information they're posting on websites. So because I'm giving them access, and there are tools available which I can install on my laptop to create that fake access point. right? So my message is very simple. If you're using public Wi-Fi, first thing, make sure it is secure. Secondly, make sure you know the access point name itself. All right, that's why Starbucks today, they actually give you a receipt and there's the password, because they want to make sure that you actually connect to their Wi-Fi and not some fake website, a fake access point. All right, so yeah. Okay, we have a video. You can watch the video here. Okay, it's about how hackers use Wi-Fi to steal your information. Okay. Hope you found that.
We'll continue with some questions at this time. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. Carry on.
All right. There is a question that came directly to us here, direct message. It says, how secure are third-party apps? I'm just reading from the chat room. How secure are third-party apps while we are doing online shopping, since this activity has become a trend and increased due to the COVID-19 situation? So how secure are these third-party apps for online shopping?
Okay, third-party apps means, are we talking about a mobile device here?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, okay, it sounds like that. Okay, so third-party apps or any apps on mobile phones, you should always download it from the official store, Google Play Store or Apple Play Store, because or Apple Store, because those apps have been tested for security. What you should not do is directly go to a website using your phone and there's a link for a mobile app, which is a third-party app. That could be risky because it's not tested by even Apple or even Google on their Play Store. All right? So this is where a lot of the issues come when dealing with third-party, because sometimes we can't tell whether third-party apps are actually quite safe or not. Sometimes I just Google and find out if I've never heard of the app before. All right? But the best is just use apps from the store. Yep. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, Raj. We have a couple of questions coming in from the SME community. Are you available to take them now, the questions?
Oh yeah, I can take it now, sir. Yeah, or okay, leave it to the end.
All right, there's a question here from a small business owner. He's asking, of course, he's quite interested in your talk and all this, but he says, would there be any form of financial assistance for SMEs that wish to adopt cybersecurity related solutions?
Okay, this is talking about some kind of grants or financial support for SMEs for them to implement cybersecurity for the organization.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have a straight answer for that. That is, I think we can just Google and find out whether within the government or within the private sector they have some kind of funding to help the SMEs with their cybersecurity initiatives. We have to check. We have to find out. I don't know exactly which organization at this point of time. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, true. I think on our part also when we come across any financial assistance or grants from the government, for example, then we will also share it with all our members.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. We have one more question here. It's also from the SME. It says here, I'm just reading the question. Mr. Raj, you have presented a lot of interesting ideas here, but could you share a few common sense tips for small business owners with limited knowledge of handling cyber threats? What's the most important thing they need to do?
Okay, the most basic thing is, of course, even a big company or a small company, you're dealing with information on a daily basis, which can be confidential in most cases. So you need to look at how to secure that. We're using a lot of computers to get our work done. So the most basic thing is, if you have a server, make sure it's secured. For computers, it goes back to the staff's responsibility. All right, make sure your computer is always up to date, it is secure, the endpoint is there. And we also need to know where we keep our documents. All right, whether you keep it locally in your computer or on a server or on the cloud. All right, so we need to know because that's where our data is. And those data are confidential because you have customer information, data or information. You also have your company, corporate information. So that needs to be secure. All right? Yeah.
Okay. I think for the time being, that's what the questions are. But I understand we may have a few more coming before the session ends this afternoon. Yeah?
Okay.
So I think over to you, Raj.
I would like to give one simple tip for the small company. I think you can store your data in your laptop, but there's a risk because sometimes your laptop can get infected by malware. Correct. Or keyloggers, or hackers can come in. For instance, there are many ways for hackers to reach to your company's computers. So it's good to have a practice where you have another cloud-based account, like Google account, yeah, it's Gmail account. So then you have another copy of your email in that cloud. So if anything happens to your local computers, then you still have a backup. Yeah? Of course, the third way of doing it is you buy the backup drive and then you offload it into that physical space. But sometimes you forget about it and then you misplace it, then you lose that information as well. So this different strategy like using cloud-based storage area, your localized computer system, and also the third-party devices may work. So you take advantage of that according to your needs.
Okay, yeah,
correct.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
Would we be continuing, or would you like to take any more questions since Dato is there as well?
We can continue first, then towards the end we can have the questions.
Okay, so all right, I think there's one. Maybe we'll go for one question. This is from, I don't know, someone just submitted it. They just put their employee. You know, my organization has put in place various cybersecurity measures. As an employee, what is my most important contribution in terms of cybersecurity?
Contribution. Okay. If you mentioned that the company has put in a lot of cybersecurity measures, to me, if it's related to all employees, there must be all the policies already in place. All right. If you follow ISMS or ISO 27001 standard, they actually basically will indicate you the kind of policies that you need to have in place. All right. So if you have that, your responsibility, all right, should be to understand and follow those policies. All right. If you talk about, just say you pick up a backup policy. Now, if you even read it and understand it and practice it, you're already doing a good job. However, this has been always a big challenge for even larger companies, even smaller companies. The policies are there, people don't read. They read, sometimes they don't understand. And sometimes they only read when they get in trouble. All right? Even if you talk about password protection policy, it's there, it's very common. But how many people actually read it? Yeah. So that's the best thing you can do as an employee. Yeah. And follow and practice. Yeah.
I would like to add a bit. This is a very interesting topic, actually. What can an employee do when the company has already put whatever necessary or the best they could on in terms of safeguard? We always need to look at ourselves as an employee as the weakest link of the chain. So we have to be very mindful that any steps or any missteps that we do, it has a repercussion not only to us but also to the company that we are working with. So with that of mindset, we will have to be a little bit more careful and not to just quickly jump into any specific risks that you will bring your company along. So I think this is a very basic employee integrity and responsibility rule. Yeah. The other thing is that there's so many examples and guidelines where you can get it from. So there are ISO standards, there are European standards. Just take a look and read it through a little bit, or there's many videos as well on there. You can watch it, because I know many Malaysians do not like to read, they like to watch. So you just watch videos, so that's fine. I think the third thing is that for companies who can afford, there are solutions out there who monitors the policies, like insider threats. There are triggering solutions. I think banks are already using this. They call it know your customer, KYC. Know your customer basically is the bank is analyzing the behavior of the customer. So if the behavior is going off tangent, like spending behavior of credit card, so suddenly there is off tangent of trends where the credit card is spending is somewhere that is not normal. So then the KYC system will flag. So the same system is available as a solution for managing insider threats, by looking into employees' behavior or reminding employees, for that matter, on certain policies that they need to be they need to abide to. So these are some of the solutions, but unfortunately these solutions are not cheap, are not free. So there are some investments to it. So for small companies, then I think shared responsibility is the best. I mean, between employer and employee, we share common goals, common objective, and common responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Also. I think that is now maybe we are in the era of shared responsibility. Like
yes, correct.
Small companies, maybe through their associations, they can get together and how to address this matter of cyber attacks. We have another question has just come into the chat room. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our audience. Actually, we can see that the questions are coming in. It says here, but all these are direct message, so I have to read it out. You don't mind, gentlemen. It says, since we use so many apps nowadays, and of course, with that, different kinds, different passwords, so many different passwords, what is the best way to keep our password? I mean, is it safe we keep the passwords in our phones? What do you two think?
Well, there are many ways you can manage password. And now a lot of people are starting to use LastPass to store all their passwords, because that's actually a specialized tool to manage your password. It's like a wallet. All right. Some people I know, they write it down, they keep it somewhere on their phone. I mean, your phone is, as long as your phone is protected, it's fine. But if somebody gets hold of your phone and they're able to guess your PIN code or whatever, then they have access to, in fact, all. As you know, you go into your phone, all the apps are open. You don't log into each of the apps. All right, so it's good that you secure your phone, use Face ID, and yeah.
Can I add a bit? I would like to add a bit on that on this part. Yes, I think like for civil engineer, the worst design they have ever made in the world is roundabout, because as roundabout, as traffic goes high, the roundabout cannot manage the traffic anymore. It creates traffic jam, right? So among the engineers, they say the worst design for civil engineer is the roundabout. But for the IT guy, the worst design ever is password, because password is actually a false sense of security, so to speak. It is not really secure, and it can be, if someone has the determination to find it, you can find it. So some of the ways to do it is, if you have a lot of password, try to create a system, like a unique part of your name, and then in combination of the company or the access to the company that you have. So you combine a little bit of consistent element as a formula, which you can trace back. So instead of remembering the password, then you are remembering the system that connects you to the password. So that is one of the tips that you can have. The other one is you have this two-factor authentication enabler for, let's say, for Facebook, for your apps. They will ask you under the security setting, do you want to activate the two-factor authentication enabler? So meaning, if you have the password, and then someone else hijack your password, they still cannot take over the account because they need to have a second factor authentication comes in. So these are some of the helping mechanisms that you can use. Yeah.
Yes, I think that is very insightful. I think now after today's session, I think we have now started to arm ourselves with some weapons against this war, right? I think we will do that in the closing section after that.
Sure.
Okay,
maybe over to you, because I understand that you have a few more slides before we
yes.
session. Yeah.
Thank you, Stanley. So we'll continue with the slides. Okay, now on the topic of malware. Malware is basically, as I mentioned earlier, stands for malicious software. There are many forms, all right? But I encourage everyone to understand at least three: virus, worms, and Trojans, how they actually work. All right. Of course, virus is something that we've been facing all these years. Many years, it spreads with users' action. Worms is a type of malware that spreads. Right? If your computer is infected with a worm and it's connected to the network, it can infect other computers on the same network because it gets spread. Trojan is a software that looks like a useful software, but actually it's malicious. Can you imagine you go to a website and you found a software, it says, this software can speed up your internet connection. Say, wow, very useful. Huh? So you end up downloading that and install it. Nothing happens. All right? What you have done is you have actually downloaded malicious software. It's designed to do some kind of harm. And it can vary from one Trojan to another Trojan. All right? We also have rootkits. Rootkits sometimes cannot be detected by your endpoint or antivirus software that hides very deep in the PC. If you notice your PC suddenly is acting up or becoming very slow, this is something that you can inform IT to go and have a check. Okay? Tell them probably your computer is infected with a rootkit. You also have spyware. Spyware is type of a malware which monitors all your activities. Okay, you got to be careful of this. Then blended threat is basically a combination of one or more malware. Then you have remote access, also known as remote access Trojans. You can control your PC remotely from a distance. All right, when your computer has been compromised and you notice that, in fact, you won't even know. Remotely, the attacker is actually controlling your computer. Okay. They also have adware. Adware feeds ads. It's like a pop-up as well, but this is an ad. If you click on that, you can download an application onto your computer. You also have exploit kits. Okay, these are specialized malwares which are designed to exploit. If you want to exploit Windows 10, you can buy an exploit kit for Windows 10. It looks for any loopholes in the software itself, then it goes in. All right, these are something that's sold in the underground. I'm not promoting the underground scene here, but these kind of malwares, you can find it out there. All right, but in your case, I don't want you to become an expert in all these types of malwares. All right, just as long as you know what is a virus, worms, and Trojans, because these are the most common. If you want to know more about the others, you can always go to YouTube and learn it. All right, there's a lot of resources out there. Now, most importantly, we need to know, how does your device get infected? How does your PC get infected? How does your mobile phone get infected? For PC, again, we talked about phishing email earlier. Here, same issue. You click on a malicious link in an email, you can download a malicious app or a file, voila, you're done. Plugging in a USB drive, we talked about that as well. Downloading software that looks like a useful software, all right, that is a Trojan. That's, Trojan, the software that looks like useful software, you clicked on it, bang, your computer is infected. This is one of the reasons why a lot of companies don't allow you to install anything onto the laptop that's given by your company. They don't allow you to do that because you may not know whether the application that you're loading or installing on your computer is malicious or not. Your mobile phone, same tips, except installing third-party app directly from the internet. Don't do that because you're going to the internet, the website may not be safe, then you found an app that seems to be a very useful app, you click on it, bang, it can infect your computer, your mobile phone. you should only download apps from Google Play Store or Apple's App Store, because those have been tested for security. All right? So this is how you actually protect your devices against malware. Ransomware is a type of malware as well, but this is an encryption type of malware which locks up your computer. All right? Once your computer is locked, the attacker will demand for payment. He can ask for a few $100 right up to thousands. This ransomware has been around for the last couple of years. When we first heard about this, all right, WannaCry and the NotPetya, the very famous ransomware, at that time there was only few. But today, unfortunately, there are thousands of variants of ransomware. We need to know how to protect against this. I've seen cases of company servers being locked by ransomware. And the attacker demand few $100,000. Companies they had no choice, they had to pay. Can you imagine your CRM system, okay? Customer database, server has been locked up. What are you going to do? You cannot tell your customer, we lost all your files. We don't know you. So you have to pay the attackers. See, these attackers today, they're quite smart. They come out with the encryption malware. Only they have the key to unlock. All right? You cannot try to unlock the computer. It's very, very hard. All right? Because the encryption key is with them. That's why they can ask for ransom. That's how it sounds. It says ransomware. Okay, now I think we're going to watch a video. Let's have a look at that.
The hackers attacked here late at night. Computers everywhere changed simultaneously. The message, pay us or you'll be locked out forever. For this aluminium producer, it was a disaster.
Down here on the factory floor where these heavy-duty machines are working hand in hand with people, every minute counts. You can see why the hackers wanted to target a place like this.
Everything was affected, even the computer inside this clock. And it wasn't just here, it was at the company's 170 other sites around the world. 35,000 employees forced to use pen and paper.
In most sites, production was kept going just about, but it's this person's job to decide what's coming in and what's going out. And of course, without the computer, they had no idea.
5 weeks on, they're still recovering.
There were people from sales who were drafted in to do production line work. There were people from finance making sandwiches for the teams. Everything in the company was turned upside down.
For days, Olov managed to keep his plant going manually. He relied on the skills of long since retired workers and long since forgotten about paperwork.
Well, this is the paperwork for only 2 weeks of orders. It's exactly the instructions that the machines need to build the things that they've got to produce here, but they've had to dig these out from storerooms, basements, because of course this is what would have been inside the computers. And now look at this, all of these files.
At the company's global headquarters in Oslo, they're still rebuilding their systems.
As we were being attacked, we had to shut down the entire network. 40 countries, 22,000 PCs. We're still very much recovering. We don't trust anything.
The hacker's note that appeared on company computers was typical of a ransomware attack.
Your files are encrypted with the strongest military algorithms. Without our special decoder, it is impossible to restore the data.
The virus is called Lokagoga, different but just as devastating as the infamous WannaCry ransomware that affected the NHS 2 years ago. For a large fee, probably hundreds of thousands of pounds, they would restore the company files. But Hydro never tried to negotiate and refused to cave in to the cybercriminals.
I think in general it's a very bad idea to pay. It fuels an industry. It's probably financing other sorts of crime.
But there are plenty of companies who are paying in secret.
This goes against the advice of pretty much every law enforcement agency in the world, so no one wants to talk about it. But there is one firm happy to speak. They're here in Connecticut, in the US, and they specialize in negotiating ransoms between the victims and the hackers.
Coveware is just one of a handful of companies that have started helping victims navigate this murky world of cyber extortion.
This group will divvy up 80% of the Bitcoin, 20% goes to the developer. Maybe they go back to the dark market, buy some more, and...
Bill and his company are incredibly careful about the details hackers know about them.
We're dealing with cyber criminals at the end of the day. And so I think it's a healthy amount of paranoia to ensure the security of our employees and our company.
They're understandably cagey about which companies are using their service.
Are these big companies?
Some of them, yeah.
What, tens of thousands of employees?
Yep, some thousands, some public companies and name brands.
Industry analysis suggests that overall, ransomware attack numbers are actually in decline, but some estimates suggest attacks on businesses have gone up 500% in the last year. And as hackers go after bigger targets, the ransoms are going up.
We always want them to be as small as possible or to not happen, but we recognize that when a company needs to pay and it's a large number, then that's what needs to happen, and that can be 7 figures.
How do you feel when you pay 7 figures?
Not good. It's not a good outcome. Everybody recognizes it's not a good outcome, but you're dealing with life and death of the company in some of these cases where that has to happen.
There's no doubt it's a major dilemma, especially when you look at what happens to companies like Norsk Hydro that don't pay ransoms. Recovery for them has so far cost more than £45 million. Clearly, the easy way out can be tempting.
Okay, I hope you found that video interesting. All right, it's a serious issue that all of us need to know about. A lot of companies are worried about this. So let's look at some prevention tips and what to do if you're infected. Okay, so prevention is always better than cure, but we need to implement that. So to deal with ransomware, okay, prevention is make sure you have a backup. If you have a backup, even if your computer is infected by ransomware, you can always restore back your backup and continue. All right, don't download attachments that could be malicious, clicking on links. See, I keep on saying, downloading attachment, clicking on links. All right, attackers, this is what they want you to do. They send you a phishing email, they expect you to click, and when you click on it, your computer is locked up. It's very common. All right, keep your operating system, application software, your antivirus all up to date. Okay, be careful of pop-ups, use strong passwords, disable autoplay. Okay, autoplay is a Windows feature where you plug in a thumb drive, it just runs all the files or runs the drive and can see the folder. If there's ransomware inside there, you're going to have an issue. It'll run the ransomware as well. So you can disable this. You just go on Google, it'll tell you the steps. And of course, educate the employees. What do you do if you're infected? Of course, don't be so generous and go and pay the ransom. All right, even if you pay, sometimes they may not be able to activate your computer again. Unplug your network cable so it doesn't spread to other computers. Turn off your Wi-Fi, shut down your PC. I think the best thing to do if you're infected, just contact IT help desk or your security team. Let them deal with it. All right, I think that's the best tip I can give you. Next, let's move on. Social media. Now, if you look at this social media, I mean, almost everyone has a social media account. And it's become our digital footprint. In fact, if I want to find out about you, I can just Google about you or go to my Facebook. I know most people have a Facebook account. If I want to know about your professional life, I can go to LinkedIn. All right, even the headhunters do that. All right, they go to LinkedIn and try to find out who you are. All right, because all of us have some sort of a digital footprint online. Now, attackers, if they want to guess your password, for example, usually password, it's always been a trend. People will use something that's personal to them. Maybe their house address, their pet's name, their date of birth, their kid's name, or favorite places they've visited, or even their favorite hobby, for that example. From there, attackers can actually do some information gathering and try to guess your password. Right? They can go to your Facebook profile. They try to understand you as a person. Where do you live? We always like to check in where we went for holiday, okay, who our friends are. We post a lot of photos out there, but we got to be wary. Today we have a bad day, then they go to social media, Facebook. Now you can see so many people are commenting about what's happening with the government. But be careful when you make those statements. Why I say that? Because it can be used in the court of law as evidence. All right? Yeah, so that's the tip I like to give. Control your privacy in social media. All right? In my Facebook, I always control that only people that I know have access to my Facebook. It's not a public profile. All right, so you can do some settings. Go to the social media sites, try to learn about the privacy settings. There's quite a number of those. All right. Another one is connecting accounts. As you know, nowadays you can use your Google account or your Facebook account to basically access an application or even a website. All right. If you access an app using your Google account or Facebook, make sure that app, okay, you know what that app is actually taking from you. All right. Sometimes they'll take your profile, or your picture, or maybe your data also. So you've got to be very, very careful on that. For example, if I want to create an account in Spotify, which is a popular music streaming app, I can use my Google account and log in. Or a Facebook account, I can log in rather than creating an account from scratch. So what it does is it will take my Facebook profile and creates an account for Spotify, which is okay, because to me is, yes, if I have a Spotify account, I want to share the music list or the playlist with my friends on Facebook. So in that way, I'm connecting both accounts together. Right? Sometimes over the years, we have connected so many accounts which we don't use anymore. So if you want to go and check, you just go to Google, log into the account, just search for apps connected to your account, you'll see the list. All right? And some of the sites or the apps that you're connected to the account, it may not be there anymore, it may not be even secured. All right? So check on that. If you're not sure, just do a Google check, because somebody will wrote about it if you create an account or logged into an account which is not safe. Okay, next, some tips, since many are working from home. Now with the MCO in our side, Selangor, KL, and Johor, I heard. So it's MCO. Most of them are encouraged to work from home. So just some basic tips, all right? Of course, keep your computers up to date and your antivirus software. Remember, working from home, the security level is not same as working in the office. Okay, office, you're working in a secure environment. You have your IT team. All right, not anybody can just go into your office. All right, it's a secure environment. So at home is different. Okay, at home you have to check where you living, and the security level is not the same. Even your Wi-Fi, you need to check whether Wi-Fi is secure or not. Okay, if you are following a wireless protected access version 2, then of course Wi-Fi is secure. If not, please go and check. And if you're accessing your company servers, all right, you want the connection to be private and encrypted, make sure you use a VPN. Okay, virtual private network. You can ask that from your IT team. They can set it up for you. Nowadays, we do a lot of video conferencing. Sometimes we share screens. Sometimes when we share one screen, we end up sharing the whole window. The other apps are open as well. So be careful of that. All right? Make sure you're not sharing anything else. There are a lot of COVID-19 related scams nowadays, a lot of fake news as well. So be careful of that. All right? Always verify the source of the news or the information that you're getting. In this case, would be, I think the My Sejahtera app has information there, and Ministry of Health. All right, there's a lot of story going around, even the vaccination. All right, even the MCO that was imposed today for our region here, a lot of rumors were going around. All right, but still, we can't take that with 100%. It's not coming from the official source. All right, creating a good working environment. Of course, working in an office is always still the best place to work because it's an office environment. All right, the ergonomics of the chairs and the tables is suitable for you to sit down there for the whole day. At home may not be the same. I see people who are sitting on the dining table the whole day, all right, doing work. You've got to take care of your back because dining table is not designed for you to sit down the whole day. So you have to create your little home office like I had to do. All right, buy the office chair and table, make sure the environment is quiet and conducive for you to do work. All right, so those are just my 7 tips for working from home. All right. Okay. Over to Stanley. The screen.
Thank you so much, Raj, for your presentation. I believe that was the last slide. Yeah. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we have we only have about 10 minutes remaining.
Yeah, that's the last slide.
So we open the floor to any other questions and answer. Now will be a good time to ask some questions if you have not done so. We hope that you can type the questions in the chat room. All right, so we'll give a few seconds for anyone who would like to ask questions before we proceed with the closing of this session. Would there be any questions?
Studio tak dengar.
Okay, maybe I'll just put one question since let me see what they. Okay, this is again from the small business side. They said that when it comes to training, of course, there are a lot of constraints about the number of man days per year allocated for training. So nowadays, with the increasing importance of cybersecurity, how many man days or man hours of training would you recommend? I mean, as a very general guide, because nowadays companies it's not so easy to let people go for training, right? So would you have some sort of a general guide?
Yeah, you want me to answer that first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let me respond to that. That's a very good question, though. How many man hours of training is needed for digital safety or cyber security per se for the company? There is no specific standards per se or best practices per se to say how many hours are needed. But the hours are quite flexible. Is as long as what is important is if it becomes effective and it can be assimilated as a behavior rather than just a theory that you can forget after you go home. I think that assimilation process of understanding into behavioral change, that is difficult to gauge, because actually that is the important part where different companies and culture would have a different way to approach that. And to me, I cannot just say 3 days in a month is enough. So you have to gauge the effectiveness of that training. To do that, I think Raj and I, Serba Dynamic, we have created sort of like exercises throughout the year. Is the conditioning trying to change understanding to transform understanding into behavior. So this is what we call like online assessment or phishing assessment, where we have a scheme that throughout the year is not going to disturb the job of an employee, but we will like send phishing emails once a while, and then see how the employee is responding to that phishing emails. Some fumbles, some may succeed. So those who fumbles, then at the end of the month, we have that graph or results that it can be presented to the CEO or top management. Okay, this is where they are now at let's say January. Then there is another exercise going, repetition but a different pattern. So we are reinforcing again until they can correct the mistake, and then after they corrected the mistake, we apply again and see whether they are able to gauge the new threats, and then evaluate again. So they can fumble. It is okay to fumble, but they need to improve from there on. So we have this kind of measurement where we can measure the staff's sort of like effectiveness or behavioral change based on this exercise. Yeah, we have like the whole year, but it's not going to be every day is going to load you for the entire year. It's just like once a while something comes, It's, you can take it also as a game, trying to become the best, not to be trapped on something like that. Yeah, Jonas, you want to add on?
Yeah, I mean, the one point I want to share actually, if you do training, especially in the area of awareness, it has to be continuous. So, you have to do it like, if you do like one topic per month for the employees, you're able to cover more employees. At least they will feel engaged as well, because they say, oh, this month, so exciting, we learned about this, next month we're learning about that. And there are a lot of new risks and threats out there that they need to be, sometimes employees themselves need to be reminded, all right, on certain areas. Like phishing assessments, all that is very important, because that's one way to train them so they become competent in dealing with email. Yeah.
And they do not have to go away from their job place.
No,
they are still there doing their job.
Yeah. On the job kind of training, it's continuous. It's not something they leave the office and sit down there for 5 days. That's not going to work nowadays unless you're going for a skills development job that's related to your job itself, then that's different. Okay, awareness is basically applies to every single employee. So we have to look at ways how effectively this can be delivered, and they can learn effectively as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think I picked up quite something very interesting here. I mean, just now beginning with Dato and then Mr. Raj. So there are two things here. One is we try to inculcate behavioral change and maybe even mindset change. And also because of the involvement of the employees, that there will be a sense of ownership and buy-in. I think that is the way to go. Get everyone involved, that together we are united in this war, against all these cyber criminals or cyber threats. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the closing section of this session. I would like to invite perhaps Dato and Dato Jazz and Mr. Raj, maybe would you care to share a few closing comments before we close the session? Maybe Dato, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much. Again, as a closing remark, what we have done here looks simple, but what we have done here is a very important activity, very important event that can help us to ensure that we are safe in the digital world. And I think the context of this training, of this awareness and assimilation of what we have discussed is not just about workspace, but also about we as an individual. Individually, we are a digital citizen in the country. So we are bound to protect our families from all sort of scams, all sort of exploitation, child online protection, child online exploitation, drug mules online. There are so many crimes that are happening digitally online. So what we have had for a couple of hours here is actually a fundamental to not only protect us as a company in the business, but to protect ourselves, our family, and our community and the loved one. So we should take this seriously and try to do this again from time to time, because threats are changing, landscape are changing. So we can even zoom into a specific subject, go into a little bit much more detail. So do this continuously, and let's treat this as edutainment, education and entertainment at the same time. Yeah. Over to you, Raj.
Okay. Thank you, Dato.
Yeah.
I'll continue with continuation what he mentioned. Awareness program, one of the challenges that I face dealing with a lot of the organizations over the years, all right, there's no continuity. All right, they do it a one-off thing, maybe they do a half-day talk and that's about it. Employees, I notice that sometimes, especially general employees, the clerks, admin staff, they may not be able to absorb a lot of the stuff that we cover here. All right, this is where I always believe that we have to continuously deliver, in small chunks. Okay. At the same time, a lot of organizations must also take a very formal approach and take awareness very seriously. That means we deliver the content, correct topics on a timely basis. We also measure whether the employees understood anything or not, and we produce a formal report that we give to the organizations. That means it clearly shows you're actually committed to the program. All right. A lot of them do it because of compliance reason. All right. So to me, it's like compliance is good, but at the end of the day, whether you've taken a very holistic approach towards awareness or not. It's like, you're driving around with no license. Yeah. We have a computer, we get our job done, but whether we are aware of the risk and the threats or not. That's where, a lot of people will come and say that human is the weakest link. I said, yeah, you know that, but what are you doing about it? Yeah. So that's just my message. I hope this relationship continues, and I'm looking forward to doing more sessions for the Sarawak Skills. I think so far it's been quite an experience for me as well, in this doing it in this manner in the studio. It's been very interesting as well. So I wish everybody the best and stay safe. And thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jazz and Mr. Raj. I think if there's one word to describe this session, I will say tremendous lah, huh? Really full of insights. Yeah, and then Dato, you lift up to your reputation of making it edutainment. Yes, very entertaining and informative as well. The highlight, there were many takeaways here, and I think that all of us, as the members of the audience, the recommendations and the ideas presented here will be a very good foundation for us to implement or even enhance our security practices and policies. Of course, it doesn't end here, because I think based on your presentation, this is really a new beginning. And for example, at Sarawak Skills, I think we have found a way to strengthen further our relationship with Serba Dynamic, I'm sure, in the area of cybersecurity, and of course, together with our ongoing initiatives in the what we call space, right? So we have a lot of ongoing. And to all our participants this morning, that we can also explore further how we can work together to strengthen our cybersecurity measures. So should you have any inquiries, just give us a call, and we'll be happy to link you up with the good team here from Serba Dynamic, or in any other areas that we can be of assistance. So everyone, thank you so much for your support and presence today. It has been a very wonderful session. But before I conclude, I would like to invite everyone to complete the evaluation form that has been sent to you earlier. So please take a few minutes to complete the evaluation form. We welcome your feedback, and we look forward to your support at future events. Of course, we will keep everyone informed about, for example, when is our next industry talk. So to those who are fasting, we wish you selamat berpuasa and happy holidays lah. Selamat Hari Raya to those who are celebrating Hari Raya next week, and happy holidays to everyone. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you.